We do. Where's there's city manager? All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to our city commission meeting night, or commission meeting tonight. As we begin tonight's meeting, I'm gonna ask you to join me for a moment of silence, and then we'll move to Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll walk through the agenda that's before us. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next we will have roll call.
Before we go into roll call, just to let the members of the public know, under Open Meetings Act, members of the military that serve on a public body may serve remotely. So I have Commissioner Robbins is here through my cell phone. So Commissioner Robbins, if you would please introduce yourself and please state that you are serving military duty.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. As he said, I'm on active military orders here through the end of this week. So per the state law, they're luckily able to make an accommodation to join remotely. So that's what I will be doing tonight.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. You want to finish the rest of the roll call?
Yep, now I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Knight?
Present.
Commissioner Moody?
Present.
Commissioner Perdue?
Present.
Commissioner Sassi?
Present.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Present.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. And we do have an interpreter with us tonight, so if you need assistance with the interpretation services, you're welcome to come forward and let us know about that. So if our interpreter will come forward. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Yolanda. I'm here to interpret for the Spanish-speaking people. Mi nombre es Yolanda. Yo estoy aquí para darles el servicio para quien ocupe interpretación en español.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, next that will take us to our first opportunity for public comment. So let me walk you through the agenda tonight. We have a number of opportunities for public comment. The first public comment period is very focused on agenda items, so items that we'll be voting on today. We had standing committee meetings earlier today, and we'll be voting on those items tonight. So for the first opportunity for public comment, and this is actually true for all of the public comment periods tonight, we ask you to come to the podium, share your name, the city that you live in. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. And for the first public comment period, we ask that you be really explicit about what item that you're referring to. And then we have 2 scheduled public hearings tonight. So later on in the agenda, we'll get to those. We have one that is a special assessment, a city commission, we are an appellate body as well. So tonight we'll be sitting as that to hear appeals on the special assessment for the Downtown Improvement District. If you are here tonight to be heard on that special assessment, I'm going to ask you to stay put until we call that open. And that is specifically for people who are paying into that assessment. So that's just for those who are being assessed. And then the second public hearing is related to Brownfield plan for the Steelcase campus. And that's located at 1151 44th Street. So we will open up that public hearing a little bit later. If you're here to be heard on that, I'm going to ask you to stay put until we open that up. And then the last opportunity for public comment will come at the close of our meeting. So I'll open up the first opportunity for public comment. We do have meeting expectations over there. For those of you who are new to our proceedings, we do ask you to refrain from clapping and cheering, booing, using vulgarity or vulgar language, threats, or name calling. We ask you to make your comments to the elected body, not to anyone in the audience. And we also ask you not to disrupt someone who is speaking. Even if you agree with them or disagree with them, they have a right to be heard without being interrupted, and interrupting is considered disrupting this meeting, which is an official city business meeting. So with that, I'll open it up. If you're here tonight to be heard on something we're voting on, please come forward. Is anyone here to be heard on an agenda item? Yep, you can come up to this podium, sir. Yeah, right here.
Good evening. My name is Peter Steensma. I'm a resident of Plaza Towers. I would like to speak to the proposed revision of 151, which is the noise ordinance. Plaza Towers is the closest tall building to the amphitheater and therefore potentially most affected by sound levels. The hearing to the Planning Commission on the 22nd had not had information on the sound that would be induced on Plaza Towers by performance at the amphitheater. We had requested that prior to the meeting. At the meeting, it was stated it was not yet available. It's been made available to us on the 14th of July. I operate a small technology consulting company, mostly related to defense kinds of things. My background's in physics and mathematics with advanced degrees. I undertook to analyze the data that was coming to the, that was presented. The projected levels at Plaza Towers at a certain level of sound, all the sound is basically due to the amplifier. It's like the kids in the backyard, you turn the volume control, it gets louder, right? So they said at the auditorium with a certain level, 105 dBA if you're into that, you'll have a projected level at Plaza Towers. That projected level compared to the ordinance level is an order of magnitude larger. In the evening, should the performance go later, the projected level is 50 times larger. I looked for a reference sound that would give people a sense of how loud this is. And the best thing that came to mind is the train whistle that goes through town, which by federal regulation is 95 dBA, about 10 dB less than the amphitheater. The sound presented at the balconies of Plaza Towers, because it's a residential property, it has a lot of balconies where people like to enjoy warm weather, which by the way is also when people like to go to amphitheaters, exposes them in their enjoyment to that noise level. The projected noise level on the balconies, according to Grand Action, is about what we measured a train horn level on the balcony, which is significantly above the ambient. There's been a lot of work, excuse me, since 2018 to establish noise levels for concerts. And I have a document cited some of that. One of the key things is that...
Sir, your time is up. So if you want to leave something with the
I will
clerk, you're
do
welcome
that.
to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
The
Yeah.
level will be that of a
Okay.
train
Thank you.
for 15-minute duration.
Thanks, your time's up. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, others who wish to be heard, you can hand it right up here. Or give it to Commissioner Perdue and she can send it down. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Carrie. I live in the Second Ward. Tonight I want to speak on your consideration of ordinances for nuisances and disorderly conduct, both of which will criminalize our unhoused community. I'm an accountant, so I like numbers. So I looked up a few numbers. In the state of Michigan, in 2017, which was the last time that I could find some actual figures for, in 1 year, 8,265 unhoused people had interactions with the police because of criminalization acts. Of that, 3,307 ended up doing jail time for nonviolent crimes. Using crisis intervention programs can save $1 million in annual cost savings instead of criminalizing. Criminalizing the unhoused cost $83,000 per person per year for jail time and food and so on. So instead of using $83,000 per year in criminalizing our unhoused community, that could be better put into affordable housing, support services, education, employment costs. Right now, there are 50 million people below the poverty line in the U.S. At any time, they could end up unhoused. This leads to disproportionate involvement with our criminal justice system, food inadequacy, inadequate health care, inadequate education, lack of full employment at a living wage. When somebody is criminalized and comes out of being incarcerated, they are twice as likely to reoffend if they don't have adequate housing. We should be doing better in Grand Rapids than trying to criminalize people who are just trying to live. We need to do better and allocate our funding better for housing, for mental health care, for better social support services. Another addition here is your commission resolution number 1 to suspend the rules. We already have a police force that's out of control, that has multiple civil rights cases against it, that has a cop on trial for murder. And here we are tonight
Thank you, Carrie.
approving
Your time's up.
$45,000.
Thanks. Your time's up, Carrie. Thanks. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, I'm Madeline Bryant. I live in Plaza Condos downtown, and I'm adjusting Ordinance 151. I refer to some of the downtown venues, specifically the outdoor beer garden at the Bob and Social House, as recalcitrant children. You give them the rules, and they break them until the punishment outweighs the benefits. It's up to downtown residents now to call and report infractions, if we can even figure out the miscreant. I personally have had to get up, get dressed, and walk over to find the noise of the source of the after-hour noise. I have videos. As I told the Planning Commission, it is not just decibels. It is the pulsating bass that drives us to distraction. We hear it through our walls, our windows, over our sound machines, and our fans. I'd be willing to bet you after the Snoop Dogg concert tonight at Van Andel, the beer garden will be rocking way past their allowed time. You make the ordinances, the laws, and the rules, and the venues deliberately ignore them, knowing that the fines are just the cost of doing business, a slap on the wrist. You have yet to be able to manage those venues down here, and I have no doubt that you shall do the same with the amphitheater. We downtown residents are assaulted by sounds on a regular basis. Sirens, revving motorcycles, car sound systems, indoor and outdoor concerts, partiers spilling out of the venues after 2 a.m. The city wants and is planning for thousands more of us to live downtown. Yet you seem to have neglected the quality of life issue. You wouldn't want this bombardment in your life. Don't expect anything less for us.
All right, thank you. Others wish to be heard?
Hello. Thank you for listening to me. So I am here to talk about the ordinance changes for disorderly conduct and the other.
Can you start with your name and city? Then?
Yeah, Kellen Martin, First Ward or Second Ward. Nuisances and disorderly conduct. Yes. So last commission meeting, the city public safety person put in a talk about how, these changes are for disabled people. We want to get stuff out of the way of disabled people and everything. And, I like disabled people. They deserve everything that they need in life. But we should also remember how unhoused people are probably one of the most disabled people in the U.S. to this day. And so to kind of use that against them shows just how out of touch with reality these people that are like putting in these changes are, I guess. We kind of have to see, and I think that it's important for you all to see that not only do these ordinances, like a lot of people are talking to you about how these ordinances are going to help, are going to affect unhoused populations or whatnot. they're going to affect all of us, not just unhoused populations. These rules affect mostly the people that will be, unhoused and whatnot, but we all have to take in the fact that we're going to be affected by these rules. And the people that are going to be least affected by these rules are the people that are calling for these rules to be implemented. And we can see on the packet here that we have about, 9 or 10 letters from local CEOs such as Ellis Parking and other miscreants themselves that have given you letters supporting these ordinances. And I think that's just crazy because they say that, oh, this isn't a class issue or whatnot, but I'm working class. I bet these people are working class. I don't think any of those CEOs are working class. I'm fairly sure that's the definition of not being working class is being a CEO, owning all this property and whatnot. So it's like, you say that you aren't acting in the interests of the business class people, but are you? Are you really? Are you acting in our interests? Because from what I can see, you're not. I mean, these ordinance changes are an attack on the people that are going to be most affected by it, and yet it just seems like, we're still going to go through with it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hello, I'm Andra from Grand Rapids. I'm speaking in opposition to the nuisance and disorderly conduct agenda items. I just have a question, and I know you're not going to answer, but why don't you announce when you are going to be voting on such important agenda items? Why is there a lack of transparency? I don't need you to answer that because it seems like you vote behind closed doors before you even hold these meetings. These meetings are just for show. It's an illusion. There's no democratic process here. Only money talks in the city of Grand Rapids. I've seen an old article about Commissioner Moody, and his wife said, quote, as a pastor, he goes out and visits the sick, opens up our doors at the church for families who don't have anywhere to go, end quote. So just not the unhoused. Do the members of your church know that you're okay with treating people who have nothing this way? That you publicly stated you're in favor of this? Again, money talks in this city. How much did it take for you to make that public comment? Every church across this city should be opening up their doors. We always hear that money is the root of all evil, yet even the churches choose profit over people. I don't know which God you believe in, but it's not my God. I don't know how you sleep at night calling yourself a pastor. I don't want to make this about me, but I was homeless at 17. My social worker lied to me. She told me when I was 17 I could get emancipated from my parents. Since I was a ward of the state, I could get help with a deposit and even help with furniture for my first apartment. The state completely abandoned me. I took off with someone I met online because I had nowhere else to go and moved to Baltimore, Maryland. That relationship ended quickly, as you can imagine. But I found a good job, saved up money, got a nice apartment, a car, all that. But I couldn't have done that on the streets. We need to house people first. Lastly, people cannot heal until they are in a safe environment. It's impossible to do any kind of introspection when you're under the knife, when you're drowning, when you have physical hunger pains trying to find your next meal. Survival mode alters our entire nervous system. Dennis Van Kampen says some people choose to live on the streets. No one says, I'd rather freeze or be in the rain or sleep on the sidewalk than have shelter and a warm bed. No one chooses that. Y'all are not stupid. You may be opportunistic, groomed into these chairs.
All right, your time's up, Andrea. Thank you. All right, your time's up. All right, others wish to be heard?
It's a tough act to follow. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Christian Kassler. I am a resident of the 2nd Ward and a student at GRCC. I spoke to you at the last meeting you held over these ordinances that I'm speaking in opposition to, that you were voting on tonight, and to my dismay, it appears most of you have already agreed to vote for these supposedly revised ordinances. These are the nuisance and disorderly conduct ordinances. It is obvious to anyone, including the ACLU, by the way, that these ordinances still represent an effort to circumvent the Constitution of the United States and, in effect, criminalize homelessness in certain parts of Grand Rapids. Not only are these proposed ordinances outrageous to anyone who respects human dignity and the well-being of our unhoused community, but it represents a profound step backwards in this city's struggle to combat homelessness. When I spoke previously, I mentioned to this body the successful approach that is the Housing First model. This model has a proven track record of reducing homelessness in cities throughout the U.S. in places like Houston, Texas, which saw a 63% drop in homelessness across a 10-year period, and Salt Lake City, Utah, which saw a 72% decline in its homelessness population during a similar length of time. And I know many of you, if not all of you, are already familiar with this model. I think it's interesting to note that this model had large bipartisan consensus once upon a time, but recently the GOP and big money have attacked this because they know it works, and I don't want to get into that though. I know many of you have good intentions in helping this city and its homeless population. However, given the purpose of this meeting and your track record of governance on this issue, I feel that tonight I should emphasize that there are members of this body and members of this community that consider themselves leaders, but who are not interested in solving this crisis. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They are interested in getting homeless people away from their businesses and their persons when they go to do touristy stuff downtown. That's pretty much it. But I ask you and the public, where was Mel Trotter's Exodus Place before they signed on to these disgraceful ordinances? Where and when were they pushing Housing First and other solutions that have been proven to reduce the homelessness population? Where was the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce, filled with so many distinguished leaders of our community, pushing solutions to help the homeless and the homeless issue? Where was the homeless housing solutions from Amway? Where were these solutions from Ellis Parking? Where were they from the law firm of the rich and powerful in this city, Warner, Norcross, and Judd? I hope I'm saying that right. Where are the funding for affordable housing demands that members of this body have made to the Michigan state government and our federal representatives in Congress? I'll finish by saying it is clear that in voting for these proposed ordinances that this city government would rather placate the demands of the rich and powerful owners of this city, and this government would rather hypocritically preach that they care about the homeless while at the same time acting to criminalize.
Thanks. Your time's up. Thank you. All right. Others wish to be heard?
Jeff Smith, I live in the 2nd Ward. I'm also here to speak on the ordinances to be adopted, particularly Ordinance 4 and 5, the nuisance and the disorderly conduct ordinances, which as I stated 2 weeks ago during the public hearing, I was totally against for the reasons I stated then. I don't need to repeat those. So I encourage you to not adopt them tonight. Although it seems like, as other people have suggested, that's likely that you're already going to do that. I find it interesting, again, that other people have stated that who has been sort of showing up to say things. So during the public hearing, it was clear that 5 to 1, for every 5 people who were against it, only one person was for them. And there were clear divisions on who those people were. People who were for them are part of the business class or the capitalist class or the robber barons or the Grand Rapids power structure, like whatever terminology you want to put towards them, right? The same thing with the people who sent letters in communications that are listed on the agenda tonight, whether they're from RDV Corp. Or Amway or Ellis Parking, et cetera, et cetera. It seems pretty clear to me, and it's interesting to note that everybody who sent letters in from that group of folks, the business class folks, everybody who's listed there, except one, also signed on to the letter endorsing the Chamber's ordinance proposal back in December. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. This is just like clear class warfare. This is like people who have money in deep pockets get what they want, and the rest of us, to hell with us, right? That seems to be the case. So I'm just wondering, in a representative democracy, how much money plays into all this. And I know that at least 3/4 of you that sit on this body have received money from the Chamber of Commerce. So I'm not really sure why I'm even addressing it, but I'm just trying to exercise my First Amendment rights, so.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ivan Diaz. I stay on 926 Underhill Avenue Southwest in the First Ward. I was here a couple of weeks ago speaking in my capacity as Kent County Commissioner for the 20th District to ask you all to take some time to reconsider these ordinances, the ordinance on proposed ordinances on updating the nuisance code and the disorderly conduct code. When I spoke 2 weeks ago, I said that the $500,000 that you all had invested in community rebuilding for rapid rehousing was not nearly enough. At that time, I did not know the size or the budget for the city, but I have a headline here from Fox 17 Online. Grand Rapids announces $643 million proposed budget, includes $139 million for Safe Community. And I don't know if there are any other spots in your budget where you are addressing rapid rehousing, but if the $500,000 that you're investing in is the only part, again, it's not nearly enough. Today, though, I'm speaking in my capacity as a universal healthcare coordinator for Michigan United and Michigan People's Campaign, again, against these ordinances. I have another article here that I would like to read into the record. The headline is Lawmaker Proposes Bill of Rights for Unhoused People in Michigan. Fox 17, Lansing, Michigan. A lawmaker has introduced a bill that would institute a Bill of Rights for those experiencing homelessness in Michigan. The Bill of Rights for the Homeless Act would offer the same rights to unhoused people as other members of society. If passed, unhoused individuals would be granted the right to navigate and make use of public spaces and services, equal treatment without discrimination, medical care regardless of housing situation, vote, register to vote, and access documents proving their voting status if they are U.S. citizens, protection from disclosure of medical records and other documents provided to shelters and services without legal authority, privacy among personal property, the right to attend school despite housing status. So I have a very specific ask tonight. In light of the proposed legislation that will be coming before the state and will probably be voted on in the next couple of months, I am asking my city commissioners from the First Ward, John O'Connor and Commissioner Joe Robbins, to make a motion to table the action on these ordinances, at least until you all can do a little more work to think about how these proposed ordinances would work within the proposed legislation that's coming before the state. If it turns out that these ordinances would violate that legislation, I would like to mention the last part, the last couple of sentences of this article. Violations of any of the above rights may lead to relief, damages, and attorney fees awarded to plaintiffs. So before we get sued as a city, let's think about this a little bit more. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Others wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Martha Cooper. I've been speaking up for our unhoused for many, many years. I think it's at least 9 or 10. And I've seen this rodeo before. The only thing that's different now is that you're trying to be very careful with your language to make it look like it's something else. And that's the fact. And I don't think any of you can actually, with a straight face, honestly dispute that fact. The ACLU has spoken, and they've actually sued and won. So I don't know whether you're going to get sued over it with you making these fancy changes in language. I just wanted to say, too, that the Public Safety Committee that you had run a couple of meetings with food, and I was really nervous about that. So I went to one of those meetings. My concern was that there wouldn't be people there, that it was the public safety meeting, and that it was being leaned on heavily by the downtown businesses and the Chamber of Commerce. And let's face it, it is a class situation, because You are listening to them and designing your public safety meetings. And when I went to that meeting, I was amazed and heartened by how many people stood up for the homeless. There's a place I go, it's a really good care facility for health care. I go to Catherine's Care Center. I can't speak more highly of them. You guys make it as hard as you can on the homeless. When you shorten the dash route, you shorten that route just enough for the homeless not to be able to reach the outreach program where they can get a haircut and health care and have a shower. And so now the homeless can't even reach that anymore. And after trying to find a place to sleep, not everybody can go to Mel Trotter, and if they have bed bugs, I'm going to tell you something. It isn't just that you're being sucked out of your blood and you're afraid to go to sleep. So if you're sleeping on the street, you're afraid to go to sleep because you're vulnerable. But if you are staying somewhere with bed bugs, it is psychologically damaging. Okay, I want you to treat them like people, and they are people with purpose in life that they can't access because they're so busy trying to survive. I am tired of living in a city where we speak up for the homeless, and you don't listen to us, and you never, ever, ever intended to listen to us. We are giving you facts. We are giving you figures. We are imploring upon your decency as human beings. I don't think you're about to hear it. I've come up here over and over. This is the first moment.
Your time's up. Martha, your time's up.
You didn't.
Martha, your time's up. Thanks. Thank you.
Anyway.
Martha, your time's up.
My time will never be up.
Hi, my name is Amy Brock. I vote in Kentwood, and I'm speaking on the nuisance and disorderly conduct ordinances. I want to tell you first, I urge you to vote against these ordinances. I heard that many people already have decided their vote, but I wanted to speak anyway. I kind of get nervous around you folks, but I don't know about authority so much with me. But there's many reasons people are homeless. Systems create frustration. I heard the one person that was sort of against voting for these things, but people are homeless because the system creates frustration. People are not dollar signs. Programs need to be created, not more obstacles. I was fortunate enough to self-advocate and get myself out of tough situations. I was so fortunate at one time to have a cottage and an apartment in Heritage Hill. And then I was not so fortunate at one time with a master's degree to live in my car in the city of Grand Rapids. And I didn't know where to park sometimes. And I was also a school teacher in the city of Grand Rapids. We as a city need to advocate for all people to reach their full potential and not look at them as a nuisance, but an asset. Many of us have great strengths, but we don't see that. We just see a business and a dollar sign. Maybe there's a way to program into these businesses that we approve how to put so much money into the people that live there that we see as a nuisance, how to put so much money into helping the people that actually live in those areas. We must treat business better, or we must treat people better than businesses. When we started creating businesses that actually counted as a citizen, I think we went wrong somewhere. Thank God I've improved my life, and I sure hope to not forget the people that have been where I was at one time, cold, no alarm clock, nowhere to shower. And I'm just grateful today, but I'll never forget the people that are still there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right, others wish to be heard?
My name is Nikki. I live in the 2nd Ward. I'm speaking on items 4 and 5. I think it's really audacious for you all to be instituting new levels of broken window policies when we are living with a police department that is nationally known for murdering people over something innocuous. So it's really terrifying, actually, to think that you're going to give those people more power when the unhoused community in our city is already one of the most targeted by the GRPD. I do mutual aid downtown, and I don't know a single person on the streets who does not have a story of personally being targeted by the GRPD. So I will remind you why I got into mutual aid specifically for the unhoused was because in December of 2020, under your watch, Mayor Bliss, you had over 120 tents in Hartside Park. Do you remember that? Do you remember the week of Christmas was when you decided to evict them and had the GRPD put up signs that said they had to be out in 3 days or they lost all their worldly possessions? These were people with a full household, sometimes full of tents because they were recently unhoused. And you had recently funneled $9 million of COVID money into creating a homelessness outreach team. They were on vacation that week. So who moved 120 tents was activists and community organizers in the city, not churches either, unfortunately, Pastor Moody. No churches down there. So the people who have been on the ground trying to manage the gentrification and exploding houselessness population that you all with your policies have created are telling you that we do not have the energy to keep fighting you on every level. We don't have the energy to keep fighting the GRPD and giving all of our resources and our money out of our own pockets to keep helping people. You are the ones with the tax dollar resources. Get it together. Yeah, basically that's it. I really hope you can turn around the rest of your administration so that your legacy is not an explosion in the unhoused population and the murder of Patrick Leoya.
All right. Others wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Cassandra Clover. I live in Kent County, 2nd District. And I would like to make a comment on your ordinance amending the nuisance and the disorderly conduct. I just want to state that I was in the shelter for at least maybe 3 months, and I did not feel safe at all over there due to all the, I would say, drug trafficking and violent behaviors towards staff and other residents. And I had to stay on the street for maybe, I would say, half a year until I got housed by all the programs that actually help the youth and all that. I would say that we need a lot more of our, what would I say, resources, need more money and funding, because it's really not safe to stay out here in the winter. I'll tell you that right now. It was very cold. I did not like it. And I would recommend maybe helping people more with resources and actually getting them the help that they need instead of leaving them in the dust and probably getting arrested. So I would ask you guys to consider maybe rethinking some of these things that you want to vote on. Just, if not for you guys' sakes, but for the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Delta Pero. I live in Kent County, 2nd District. None of you know me, but sitting before me. However, the people sitting behind me got me out of homelessness. I was homeless for 6 years. I am transgender female. My parents kicked me out at 12. I'm 20 now. Everything that you have done has been to make anyone who is homeless lives a living hell. Do you know what targeted discrimination is? Do you know what fascism is? Do you know what Nazism is? Do you know what it looks like when it's legalized? I would like you to look at City Ordinance Chapter 151, nuisances. The very definition of what you call a nuisance allows targeted discrimination, Nazism, and fascism. It allows, I could be sitting out on the street right now on my phone in front of a business, and I would be allowed to do that. But I assure you, one of my other board members on the Kent County Youth Action Board would not be allowed to do that because he is black. I am sitting here in front of you angry and shaking. I ask you to think about this. Well, I would ask you to think about this before you vote, but I'm pretty sure you've already done so behind closed doors. So, Mayor, I apologize, but there is no ask. There is no comment. This is a comment to my fellow city members. Thank you. I'm done.
All right, thank you. Others wish to be heard?
My name is Kristen Albinson, and I am from the 2nd District. I was a former campaign canvasser for CADC LLC, and let me just tell you, I have knocked on almost every single door in Grand Rapids. I have seen every single neighborhood in Grand Rapids, and what I see here is an absolute disgrace for everything that my parents have ever done as former Michigan State alumni, as far as being past president of Grand Rapids Junior Chambers of Commerce. And he walked down here on Division and knocked on every single door with coupon books from Mick Parks, because local helping local got those people business. It got them out of Ada. It got them to come downtown and to conduct business, to help each other. And when local helps local, our states thrive. 5, when we have this division, this nitpicking, this you're better than you and you're better than you, and we have all of this federal funding, but we're not going to help you because we don't like you and we want you to go away. I'm not going anywhere. I stayed here 5 years past my under 6-month expiration date with terminal cancer to provide a cure. And thanks to Michigan State University, that is exactly what I did. With the grace of Jane Paulson and medical trials that are being done nowhere else in this country, they are being done right here. But every APS report my sister and I put in about my mother being abused was ignored by Steve Conrad until she was dead. So ignoring your rights does not make them cease to exist. And the fact that there is no disabled advocacy does not change my right to advocate for myself. And my civil rights in no way are erased by any legislation any local state wishes to enforce or ignore, like the red flag laws. 2 years later, we still do not even have a copy of the will that they changed on my mother before she died under very mysterious circumstances, and I have asked for every level of assistance from the governor's office down to be ignored, to be openly insulted, and to be told I don't belong here. Well, you seem to want me when I've got a cure in my blood that might save one of your relatives. But funny how I'm not worth the cost of proper medical care, a roof over my head, or ADA certification from the Rapid, when I have proven they have absolutely targeted, abused, and destroyed the lives of disabled people they don't like in Walker. They shut down the Walker City Hall stop 2 days a week because Alan Parent does not want disabled people at his library, although it's open 7 days a week. You don't have a car, you are unwelcome. You walk past, they'll turn the sprinklers on as I walk home past the police station. You think that's funny? Because I don't. And I don't think somebody in Chicago thought how a Walker policeman popped off in a Chicago hotel was funny either. Must have been something he said.
All right, thank
Have
you.
a nice day.
Okay, thanks. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, I'm Libby. I'm from the 2nd Ward of Grand Rapids. A couple months ago, a homeless man died in the park down the street from me. And Asante, during the meeting, asked me if I had contacted authorities about people sleeping at that park. I said no. And I think I need to explain to you all who are going to vote tonight on these ordinances 3 and 4 why I didn't call the police. I don't want people being arrested for not having the good grace to be born as privileged as the rest of you are. And I don't care. A city manager can give us as many sob stories about his childhood or his grandmother's childhood. But when his compassion is gone, the sob story means nothing to me. Not a thing. I will know you by your fruit. And your fruit tonight is how you vote. And so I will know you. I will know which one of you have good hearts and which one of you really care about the residents. I don't give a flying crap about the business owners that live out and wherever. And to our mayor, I don't usually come here and single anybody out, but I am angry this evening. I'm angry at the way I feel that this has just kind of slid under with the promise that you weren't going to ever vote on this, and then the meeting last week and now tonight, or last time, not last week, sorry. You have probably been on the city commission the longest out of everybody on here right now as a commissioner, and I'm a little ashamed to say I've voted for you every single time because they say that homelessness is a policy choice. What we have going on right now is a direct result of your leadership on this city commission. The increased homelessness, the increased levels of homeless being arrested or moving out into the city because some rich white man cannot be stopped to have to see somebody who's poor and who doesn't have his, the things that he was given in life. This is a direct result of your policy. And a vote yes tonight as an alumni of Grand Valley State University, I am going to contact the university and ask that you not be teaching any more social work courses because I can't see how anybody that is actually a social worker would say, yes, I want to arrest more people who are down on their luck. And I would encourage anybody else that went to Grand Valley to do the same thing.
Others wish to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Cindy Hicks, and I live off the 1000 Blacka South Division, where I've been now for 15 years in that specific location. First, I'd like to say my experience 2 weeks ago waiting in line to talk about this, I had to wait 20 minutes to get on the elevator. And while I was on the wait down there by all the security guards, a property developer, that's what he stated his profession was, wanted to talk politics with me in the line. And it got really exciting. And then he said to me, he practically shoved it down my throat, that we had to have police in case my house got broken into. Huh. Wow. And he said, what are you going to do if someone breaks in your house? Well, if there's anything I've learned since the cops took care of my husband and deported him, is how to count on community. Because at the end of the day, the only people that are going to make sure I'm safe is my neighbors. Okay, so my 25-year-old and me, it cost me to speak up. Let me tell you, my real estate career is totally in the toilet. But I can clean houses, back to labor rights, you know. Anyways, my 25-year-old was learning how to clean some houses, and we were in Grand Haven, and my neighbor calls me and says he can see people standing in my house. Actually, it's my rental, but my daughter is moving in there. Well, she'd like to, except she's too freaking scared. And so the neighbor says there's people standing in our house. And so she knows I'm not going to call 911. I prefer to take care of it myself and level with people. And so our neighbor did not speak very good English, and I didn't know his legal status. Miss, you might want to pay attention. So anyways, my daughter calls 911, and she says, hey, there's people standing in our house. Will you please go check it out, and gives them the address. And you know, the 911 operator said, how do you know this? And she said, well, our neighbor called and told us, and he's looking at the people. And she said, well, if the witness doesn't call us, we're not sending anyone. So my daughter is driving like crazy from Grand Haven to try to make it to her house to find the people that are standing in there, because, you know, the GRPD wouldn't help her. So, you know, she likes to carry a lot of knives. She's grown up here with a single mom. And so we had to enter our property by ourselves. So I'm still standing here. But it's amazing how I can get threats like that, standing in the line, not even 24 hours later, have my house broken into to prove to me that I don't need cops.
All right, others wish to be heard?
My name is Andrew. I work in the city. I'm all for solutions that fix.
Okay, Libby, don't interrupt him. Can you start with your name, city that you live in?
Andrew Kapinowski. I work in the city of Grand Rapids.
Yeah, and where do you live?
I'm going to make my own comment.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you work or live here.
Okay, stop yelling at the people who are talking. We do ask that you share your name and the city that you live in.
I live in Walker, and I work in the city of Grand Rapids.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Go
But
ahead.
I work in the city. I spend a lot of time here.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends who live downtown.
Yeah.
And I'm all for solutions that help fix the root causes of homelessness. I mean, nobody wants to see that out there. But at the same time, I have friends that live downtown, a young female friend, and she gets catcalled, she gets accosted for money. I've witnessed people walking in the middle of the streets, knocking on windows, asking for money, doing other things. And regardless of housing status, that's not acceptable behavior. And so I think that these ordinances are there to help that. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. All
right, important information, Mayor.
Don't yell and interrupt people who are talking. And just, Libby, do not disrupt. I am serious. I'm going to ask you to leave. That's your warning. That is a warning. No more disrupting. Not everyone agrees with people who are speaking. Let them be heard. They have just as much of a right to be heard as you do and everybody else. So stop yelling. Andra, that's your warning. You do it again, I'm going to ask you to leave. one warning, and then I'm asking you to leave. Go ahead.
Chair, excuse me, point of information.
You can ask for a
Yes, clarity. Are people required to say their name and the city that they live in? Because we've heard from other folks who have given the county district that they live in. Are they required to give city, county?
clerk.
What are the expectations?
We ask that they give the city that they live in. But Clerk, please clarify.
I might confer to the city attorney, but the Open Meetings Act states that we can request that, but no one is mandatory to have to give that. We do it as a request, just so we know who is talking in the room.
It's in our meeting procedures and standing rules. All right. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Benjamin Soltis. I work in the First Ward of Grand Rapids. I live in Plainfield Township, my residence.
Thank you.
And I come up here to comment on the 4 and 5, like everyone else is doing behind me and before me. But I just want to say, I'm really thankful for all the good work our police and fire department do. I see it every day. Working downtown, I often visit some restaurants. I visit other friends who live downtown, and I often see the same things my friend was just talking about. I see people catcalling. I see people yelling at me for no apparent reason. And these ordinances, I think, are very narrowly tailored to help those things, to make our city a better place for everybody, especially someone like me who pays taxes by working downtown. So,
Do not interrupt. If you interrupt again, I will ask you to leave.
and that's pretty much my comment. I support these resolutions, and I just want you to know that you have a lot of people out there who have spoken to me, and I know, especially working downtown, there's a lot of people that would probably be here if they lived here, but they work here and aren't often able to make the drive, especially when they live and work in our city and contribute to a lot of the tax base and just other people downtown. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Angel Byram. I am one of the unhoused. I just want to say we are seen, we should be heard, and we are not going anywhere. I don't think that I should have to fear the cops as a black African-American woman, but every day as I walk down the street, I'm looked at differently, and especially being unhoused. Cops targeting, following, slowing down just because I'm black. But nobody wants to talk about that. I also wanted to say, how are we supposed to get jobs if no one's giving us an opportunity because we don't have anywhere to take a shower, to get clean clothes? Because there's so many homeless people in downtown, but not enough resources. So how are we supposed to be an upstanding citizen if everything's getting taken from us? I'm not even from here, actually. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I've never seen this many homeless people ever. And Detroit is like one of the population that has most homeless people, and it's crazy coming here. This is a very white town, I would say, and a lot of people don't want to talk about that either. I don't have a problem with white people. My boyfriend actually is white and Mexican, and I was raised with white people. So, but I see the difference in how you treat African-American women or men, especially in the medical field. Because when I went in, I got treated different than my partner. That's crazy. I didn't get all the tests. They asked me, do you want the test done? Because I was homeless and I'm black. The other thing is, how can we, it takes a nation. It doesn't just take one or two people. So I think that it is unfair to have all these resources, but like have just specific people like Mel Trotters or community rebuilders or Salvation Army. Salvation Army is swamped. Like, we need more. And it's so sad because there's so many young kids or young adults like myself. We didn't ask to be homeless. We didn't ask to be out here. I never will wish this on anybody. I would never wish homelessness on anybody. It is the saddest thing to not have clothes, to have people take pictures of you because they're uncomfortable. But guess what? I'm uncomfortable with you taking pictures of me. I'm uncomfortable with you yelling at me. Oh, get a job. Oh, do this. Oh, do that. Okay, then why don't you give me money so I can get the clothes to get a job? But that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Jack Prince. I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I worked in Grand Rapids most of my career. I'd like to address number 4 and 5 with the ordinances. You know, I didn't expect to speak. I didn't have any research in this area. I've seen a lot on the news, but I was moved. I was compelled by witnessing, just the humanity and the stories. And beyond that, I was interested in looking at your faces while those things were being revealed, because, there's a line of scrimmage here. We've got a line of scrimmage of the fortunate, the unfortunate, the capitalist, the racial components enter into all that. We know the line of scrimmage. They had different monikers. I think Mr. Smith called them the ruling class, the power structure. We know these two lines are facing each other tonight. And I anticipated that the line that is trying to pass this ordinance would have no acceptance of the humanity shared here. But I saw some. I did. I saw it on your faces. I'm calling on that to move later when the vote comes out and do what that deep human feeling compels you to do and vote against it. There's a saying, somebody wiser than me said once, there's nothing more foolish than the obvious to those who are unwilling to admit the truth. I think every human in this room knows the truth. And I hope that moves you this evening, minutes from now, to do the right thing. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hello, friends. Mark from Grand Rapids. Hold up with these ordinances 3 through 5. As for the amphitheater situation, I get that the people who live in Plaza Towers are concerned about noise and everything. However, that's what you get for living around that hype-filled danger. So you got to think about that. Now, as for the rest of my time, you are going to penalize homeless people. Again, they are the most vulnerable, targeted individuals ever. If not the police, it's going to be the nut jobs. As I said before, this meeting is on around the world on YouTube. They're looking at this. And some of them might be plotting to zero in on homeless people and beat them, stomp them, and kill them. You better think about this, because if you vote to approve it, I bet your boots that the homeless people are going to come zeroing in on City Hall, voicing their displeasure. So you better be ready. Again, you can fool them, but you can't fool me. I've been around a long time, and I've seen more than almost any of you in here. And trust me, something bad is going to happen if you approve this. So think about it and make sure you do the right thing. People's lives are at stake, whether you like it or not. Thank you.
All right, others wish to be heard?
My name is Erica. I'm a proud resident of the 3rd Ward. I had to come up here because I haven't been in a commission meeting in a long time, you all know. Partly because I feel like y'all don't listen to us anyway, so why waste my time? Secondly, because I had to come up here because y'all are addressing our unhoused neighbors when y'all are killing black folk. But we up here talking about an unhoused problem. Okay, I see where your priorities lie. But I also want to address the fact that many of us who were raised here, grew up here, and you're talking about unhoused, we call them unhoused neighbors because we grew up with them, right? So a lot of these unhoused people had a specific role in us growing up. I knew a lot of unhoused growing up. We knew Auntie Cheryl, because Auntie Cheryl had snacks for the kids when we came home. Mindy, you know what I'm talking about because you went to Catholic Central with me, and we had plenty of unhoused neighbors who would come and make sure that the Catholic Central teenagers were okay going to and from school. They were our unhoused neighbors. But you're so quick to say homeless situation. I understand businesses. That's business. Business is business. That's fine. But what I'm telling you as a resident of Grand Rapids, I'm telling you that I know these people, that I grew up with these people, that I have been around these people, and they don't worry me as much as your police do. Okay? Number two, Commissioner Knight, I never had the pleasure of meeting with you, but I have heard you in prior meetings say you have been there before. So I plead with you to remember those days, right? Commissioner Perdue, I met with you, had a wonderful conversation, got to know you and enjoyed it, and I understand that you grew up in the 3rd Ward, so you know. And you know what I'm talking about, and I plead with you to remember those days before you make your decision. Mindy, I went to school with you, so I plead with you to think about the days when we were growing up and the unhoused neighbors, because I refuse to call them homeless. They are unhoused neighbors. Our unhoused neighbors who came and visited us and who we laughed and joked with as kids. I plead with you. Mayor Bliss, you of all people are so quick to go and enjoy a drink downtown, right? So what I plead with you is to remember that while you're drinking downtown, these people are simply trying to live, period, point blank. And when you make these votes or decisions, everybody can disagree to disagree. But what I want you to remember at the end of the day, we are all human. Justice for Patrick.
All right. Others wish to be heard?
My name is Matt. I live in the 3rd Ward. Look, at this point, y'all know that I am vehemently opposed to the nuisance and disorderly conduct ordinances being considered. And last time I was here, I made some very heated remarks about what adopting these ordinances would say about the character of the people who sit in this administration. And I stand by everything I said. If these ordinances are adopted, it will reveal you all to be just cartoonishly callous, like cold and greedy. But the thing is, at the same time, I actually have a degree of sympathy for all of you. Because I think in many ways the jobs you have kind of necessitate a level of coldness and greed. I think it just naturally brings out the worst in people, unless you're actively trying to not let it, which I think a couple of you are trying to do. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I think you all get in the habit of seeing your constituents, the citizens of Grand Rapids, all of us, not as people, but as demographic groups, and how valuable they are to re-election campaigns. But the thing is, as my good friend and comrade Erica just said, that to many people in this room, the unhoused, they're not demographics, they're our neighbors. And look, I don't know about y'all, but in the West Michigan, in the Grand Rapids that I grew up in the Grand Rapids that I chose to came back here after living in New York for my 20s, in that West Michigan, Grand Rapids, we look out for our neighbors. You know, I thought that was a value that the Midwest loved to say about itself. So really, that's it. I'm imploring you to please just look out for your neighbors, because the unhoused, whether you like it or not, they're your neighbors too. That's it.
All right. Others wish to be heard?
Hello, my name's Diane Santiago, and I live off of South Division Avenue and William Street. The reason I'm standing up here is because I deal with dwelling place organization where they do housing, but every last one of their properties, and I mean every last one, I worked for them for 12 years, there's a lot of drug abuse going on, a lot of women being abused, a lot of children being abused, there's children being murdered, there's people being shot, there's women with domestic violence, and that's in every last one of their properties. And there's not enough, I guess they don't want to pay for enough security. You may have one in the morning, one in the evening, and it's causing people that stay in those apartments. I stay in Kelsey Apartments, and I've been dealing with a lot of drug addicts that live and are coming from Mel Trotter and that are tearing up my home. I have one specifically that I've been calling every single day on that literally locks me in my door. I can't get out until that person is ready to leave. And now he's brought others that are smoking crack cocaine and are drinking and doing drugs and all kind of sexual acts going on, and they're right at my front door. And I have no other way to get, I've been homeless, so I understand. But I'm not the type of homeless that goes around doing that to other people's property. I respect where they live. We all don't do drugs. We all aren't hardened criminals. I'm a 64-year-old grandmother that just is trying to live in this neighborhood. I've lived in Grand Rapids since I was 13 years old. And I'm tired of having the fear every single day that I wake up, having to look out my door to see if anyone's there that's gonna harm me, because that's the only way I got in and out, other than a window with a fire escape. And I've called and called and called. I've talked to them. I don't know what else we can do. But we need more security on those properties, more police policing the areas and actually doing something about it. I get harassed more by most the men, not the females. The females, they are just trying to find their way and live. And they have to navigate through all the men that are pedophiles, that are rapists, that are domestic violators, that are child molesters. And I have 6 grandchildren of my own, and I'm afraid to even bring them over in that area. That's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me be heard.
Thank you for your comments. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, police and staff. Thank you for being here. Just a quick announcement. We're giving away free clothing this Saturday.
Mr. Scott, what agenda item are you talking about?
Well, it has to do with the poor.
Okay, you have to tell us what.
The disorderly conduct.
Okay.
Just a little advertisement first. I'll share it later.
Okay, that's.
Forgive me. Again, Daniel Scott, resident of Grand Rapids for many, many years. I've ministered in our poorest neighborhood called Hartside for over 40 years. So I've seen literally hundreds of the unhoused, and we've ministered to them again for 43 years. And we still minister to them today. You're welcome to join us, 229 South Division. But I just want to address again, like I have in the past, what I see after 43 years of 2 main causes for the unhoused. Again, I understand that all of them are not in this category, but over 43 years, I've seen thousands. Number one, they're addicted to drugs. And number two, they're addicted to alcohol, or both. And the scripture says, if you're addicted to those substances, you will be poor. You will be poor. So I don't know if you look at this from this perspective, but that's what I think has to be addressed. The growing alcohol consumption and availability. I'm always seeing you giving more licenses to bars and breweries. And again, why should we be called the beer city? And then also, now these weed stores everywhere, marijuana stores. That's right. If you want to see more unhoused people, just keep giving out these licenses, because we see them in Hartside, laying in front of our door, laying on the streets. Please address this. Address the core issue as I see it. Two core issues. And of course, more than that, it's a spiritual problem. They need the Lord Jesus Christ. He can deliver them. I used to be a drug addict myself and an alcoholic. Never shared that before, but I know where they come from. So Jesus Christ delivered me. Jesus Christ can deliver them. And I know that you're not a spiritual entity, but that's the way I see it. Thank you.
Let him speak. I know. Let him speak. Others who wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Justin. I live in Grand Rapids. Well, the last time I was here, I got a little emotional because I was talking about the horrible bed bug infestation at Meltrotter. I worked there for a year, and I'm going to try to be more contain myself and talk about like what it is like to live in a situation like that, because I've seen it. I've worked with these people, and the amount of desperation when they come up to you, anger and desperation when they come up to you, and you're just a security guard, doing your duty there. When they come up to you because they are sick, or they have been eaten up by bed bugs in the middle of the night, or just they've been waiting through like endless miles of bureaucratic red tape just to get the bare minimum in life. Okay? You shouldn't be scared of them. Actually, you should be scared of them, because they should be angry and up in arms. They have every right to be. They have nothing in life. And you want to take away even that from them? What is wrong with you people? I don't get it. When they came up to me and when I work there and they're complaining about things, and I know I can't do anything about it, I wish I could do something about it, but I can't. I'm not the one pulling the strings. I'm not the one in power. You hold political power, and you should use that. Use that for people who have nothing, no power, okay? And, when I was there, I saw people die in front of me, overdose and die in front of me, or just people who die in the middle of the night. Listen, being a drug addict is not a crime, and it's not a sin, okay? What it is it's a disease, and it needs to be treated as such, and you need more programs, okay? You need more programs for that. You need more programs for housing. You need so much more, and also mental facilities. Lots of people there who are mentally ill, okay? And they're at the very bottom because they can't even control their own mind, let alone, their finances. So I just implore you, instead of making these people illegal, give them something. You can do it. You have the money, do it.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Dorothy. I'm from the Helping House of Grand Rapids, and I live in the first ward, I believe. I'm coming to you today as a professional that works in the field of not only the unhoused, but also with survivors of post-traumatic stress disorder and varieties of trauma. And I did a documentary series on homelessness in LA, Compton, and Hollywood several years back. And when I came home, the only thing I could think was, this is foreshadowing what we're experiencing in West Michigan. And I've desperately attempted to talk to people from every side of the perspective here about what's to come if we don't heed the examples of our neighbors to the west. We desperately need mental health resources. And if we don't feed these people what they need, the nurturing necessary for them to survive and eventually thrive within our community, we will continue to see the escalation of homelessness that's been occurring, and we will soon look similar to how the homelessness looks in LA. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a specific section of the neighborhood in LA called Skid Row, and they currently have a population north of 4,000. At one point, the neighborhood associations in the area many years ago had agreed to leave the unhoused alone as long as they stayed in their corner, as long as they stayed away from their businesses, as long as they didn't fuck with the money. They would be treated like they weren't there. They wouldn't bother them, they wouldn't be arrested, they wouldn't be beaten. And so over time, these neighborhoods decided to increase the policing and the border, and to increase the lighting, to make the seating uncomfortable, and to make anything that was outside of that corner that they were allowed to be uninhabitable. And as long as they stayed in their corner, they could do their drugs, their prostitution, they could have their violence, and they wouldn't be bothered. But then at one point, someone got greedy, and they decided to gentrify the area that they decided to leave peaceful, quote unquote peaceful, because obviously there's a problem there still. But when they gentrified this, they popped the bubble. And similarly, we have a bubble downtown. Although these people are not being treated hands off, there is still a space that they are taking refuge in. And they are currently being able to receive resources, admittedly not enough, and we should definitely be feeding them more. But if we pop that bubble, and if we tell them to leave downtown, where are they gonna go? Instead of these businesses, they're gonna go to the homes of the business owners, and not intentionally, not to target, but when this bubble pops, just like in LA, where there were camps of 60, 40, 20, with prostitutes and business owners alike living together because of how desperate the housing crisis had gotten, we're going to have something similar here, where the people that are caught within our poverty gap, both the professionals and the unhoused by choice, are going to be caught in the same space, and they're going to be in the same circumstances of living not in your city, but in your backyards. And we must increase our mental health resources, our system navigation resources, and streamline the resource access so that it's easier to manage for all people, not just. Yes?
Your time's up.
Oh, I didn't realize we were timed. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hello, everybody. Nalisha from Wyoming. I haven't been here since May, so I don't know too much about the ordinances, but it seems like homeless people are being targeted. Now, I'm 40 years old. I'm from Grand Rapids. Y'all know me. Y'all have seen me several times. Mayor Bliss, we had that meeting in April. The problem that I have is the fact that homelessness is continuously being criminalized. And like I said at my very first meeting, there are copious amounts of money that's being generated annually for homelessness that's not being used like it should be used. The fact that I missed my daughter's graduation this past May because I was separated from her pisses me off. And I understand why people turn to the dark side like Anakin Skywalker. See, I want to too, but I have integrity. But I should turn to the dark side and start breathing loud. Because I'm tired. I'm from, facts though, I'm from here. But I'm so sick of the way that people are not receiving help. I have gone to all of these nonprofit organizations trying to get help. And every time I've complained and had grievances against the Starvation Army and Hale Trotter, nobody's done anything. One of y'all said last time we have to do our part. I've done my due diligence. And I followed the chain of command from Grand Rapids to the United Kingdom of the international leader of the Starvation Army. Nobody cares. I heard somebody at the last meeting, I watched it on YouTube, having an unmitigated gall to complain that homeless people have their belongings outside. Where are we supposed to have it when there's no lockers being provided? I've been homeless. And I don't like to be emotional, But I'm hurting, happy hurting and healing simultaneously because I've been separated from my kid. The Salvation Army failed to adhere to the coordinated entry policies for the family separation. Nobody is being held accountable. Nobody, when it comes to the way that we get treated, is being held accountable. So they can deny assistance because they feel like it. And I've done my due diligence. United Way Continuum of Care Coalition to End Homelessness, it should be illegal aid, because what do they do for anybody? What does any of these organizations do for anybody when they seek assistance? Not all of us are sidewalk bums thinking the government is supposed to take care of us. We do try. I come from a disadvantaged background like a lot of people in this room. And every time I've tried to get on my feet and join a program that was supposed to be geared towards people like me, it was always some major stipulation. So how the hell are we supposed to get on our feet when these programs don't want to help us? It's copious amounts of money for homelessness, and it's not enough being allocated for programs. I've had enough of Grand Rapids. This place is absolutely trash, yo.
All right.
Facts, man. Y'all don't understand.
All right. All right. Others.
Separated from my kid. Y'all
All right.
don't understand.
Okay. Thank you.
Y'all don't understand, man. Oh, God.
All right. Others wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Eileen. I'm a resident of Grand Rapids and therefore one of your constituents. I read the ordinance that I think a lot of people are upset about. This is the amending section 9.136 of chapter 152, disorderly conduct of Title 9 of the Grand Rapids City Code. I can see where people are getting anxious. You describe loitering as hanging around without any apparent purpose. Now, I know that it would be super cool if everyone wore a name tag with their name and what they were doing, like, hi, I'm Eileen. I'm traversing to the nearest ATM. Hi, I'm Eileen. I'm on a smoke break. Hi, I'm Eileen. I'm trying to find cell reception. Or, hi, I'm Eileen. My shoe feels like it's got a rock in it, so I'm trying to find like a private place to set my purse down so that I can like take my shoe off and sort of adjust it and everything. Basically, this ordinance does give you carte blanche to arrest people without any clear means of avoiding arrest, which would make it unconstitutional. So the first time you try and arrest somebody on the basis of that ordinance, it's just going to knock the whole ordinance down. So I can see why people are upset. For one, it's kind of just like, oh, what are people doing standing around downtown? Oh, well, usually it's normally poorer people who get to hang around downtown. So I do like how frequently this city government just likes to try and pass things that are like, we just sort of wish poor people didn't exist. It's just, it's not even like a hidden intent for you folks at this point, is that you just sort of wish poor people were pushed out of the city, out towards the suburbs, which are designed for upper middle class people who have reliable cars, who don't need public transportation, who don't need to have a walkable transit to social assistance of various sorts, and who don't need to have a reasonable commute to their children's schools or to their workplace. But yeah, this ordinance, it won't stand on constitutional grounds. You shouldn't pass it. Thank you.
Thanks. Others wish to be heard?
Hi, I'm John. I'm out of the city of Grand Rapids. Due to contrary belief, alcohol and drug abuse happens in the suburbs.
All right, John, what agenda?
The homelessness agenda, where there was mentioned that drug abuse and alcohol was taking place and causing the homelessness. Just to contrary belief, alcohol and homelessness does not happen only on the streets of Grand Rapids. It happens in the suburbs. I myself portray myself as a member of the media. I'm working on a podcast right now along with writing called Urban Voices Grand Rapids. Has anybody ever spoken to a homeless person and heard their story? How they got there? Some of the disbeliefs that they go through? The torture, the abuse, the mental abuse, the alcoholism, the abuse to parents? We've got to address this stuff. Take a walk and talk to somebody that's homeless. A majority of them aren't dangerous. 2 weeks ago, I was at a city jazz festival on Rosa Parks Circle. I was more scared of the private security guard wearing khaki pants and a black T-shirt, wearing a militia shirt with a gun on the outside of his pants. And this was a black band playing, drawing African-American customers, and here's a guy that's scaring the hell out of people down there. You know? It's the other thing. I just read, following the media, being the news hound that I am, that Traverse City is going to rebuild part of the state mental hospital to home and build homeless camps. I've never put anybody down, but the whole commission here. Just vote this down. In a year or two, you can pull your best Governor Abbott, round up the grata buses, and round up all the hopelessness and take them to Traverse City. Because there'll be a homeless shelter up there. That's how you feel. You don't want them? Get some grata buses, 2.5 hours, they're not your problem anymore. But these are people with real life and real life issues that need to be addressed. We've all had our dark days. Some of us have insurance, some of us don't, some of us have medical bills, and some of us had the spike put in our vein that we don't know how to get rid of. So for that, let's work on the issues, not convict them. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Others wish to be heard?
Brandon Bilski, 2nd Ward. I think that today a shadow is cast on Grand Rapids, one that you reaffirm with the very beginning of this conversation of the 4th and 5th ordinances. And actually, I'll comment on the 3rd like someone else here, that it's just kind of funny that we'll talk about giving exception to the richest among us to have super loud concerts that will make millions of dollars in private money with a lot of public investment. And we say we champion public and private investment, which is code word for do whatever profit demands. But you are supposed to be the leaders of the people. And the most vulnerable among us should be first in your mind. We should be suing these for-profit companies for negligence to the human rights of the people in our community, our neighbors who are unhoused, many of which do pay taxes in this city often, and they're on hard times, just like any one of you. So I ask you, please, to do what is right. Pure and simple. You don't need statistics for this decision. These are walkers. Are you going to take the wheelchairs? Are you going to take the walkers? The hospital will take a 75-year-old woman and throw her outside of dégagé. And the security guards plead, we can't take care of her. She cannot be here. I can't even let her inside right now. And the paramedics who swore an oath to do no harm in your city are privatizing our ambulances because healthcare is not a right either in this city. And what are you as local leaders supposed to do? That's beyond you. No. You can at least speak. And if you can't speak, you can step down because there are others who live in this city, who work in this city, who struggle in this city, who will step up and at least be a voice if we cannot, with money, do what justice demands. What justice demands of you tonight is at the very least to not be silent. And certainly, as a city body, do not vote unanimously for profit over people. Please. And where is LeGrand? He wants to run this city, but he cannot speak up for the most vulnerable. He announced a long time ago. And it's pathetic. And someone will rise to meet that.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, my name's Jose Rodriguez. I am a resident of Grand Rapids, live in the 1st Ward. I actually was just on my couch watching this on YouTube. And I was just, man, I was getting heated. So I had to come down here, got in my whip, came down here. So I'm glad to see some of these people in here. Not everybody. But I'm also a GRPS school board trustee. So I'm also a leader in the community such as yourselves. And I just want to let you know that as a school board trustee, I campaigned just as many of you did. I think most of you, if not all of you, were elected in the same way. But I ran a campaign of authenticity, of compassion, of understanding, of kindness. When I worked in GRPS, I told my students to lead life in the same way. So to see this even on the docket, to see something like this even being proposed, new ordinances that would further punish those that have nothing, is disgusting. It's embarrassing to have this happen in the city that I've worked in for 7 years, that I've worked with students in, that I say, hey, look to the leaders in your community, but this is what the leaders do. So I just want to let you know that if you vote yes on these ordinances, you're not a leader, because a leader leads with compassion and with kindness. They don't punish those that have nothing. I was homeless as a teen, and honestly, right now, I'm on food stamps. I'm not ashamed to admit it, so that means that I'm this close to being homeless. And I am a leader in the city. So to say that you are above somebody, to say that you know what's better for somebody than they themselves do, is ridiculous. And I know some of you, personally, some of you I don't really talk to that much. But if I see you voting yes on these ordinances, I know that you're not a leader for the city of Grand Rapids. This should not pass unanimously. If it does, I honestly don't even know what to think of this city. I try to support my city in the best way that I can. But if this is what the leaders think is the right thing to do for our most vulnerable, then I just lose a little pride in the city of Grand Rapids today.
All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Shannon Tanis, and I'm from the First Ward, and I will be speaking on the ordinances 3, 4, and 5, like everyone else. On 3 for the amphitheater, when I hear the units of measure are not consistent across the board and you guys don't have that data and you're willing to vote on that, that just doesn't even line up. That just seems like you're jumping before you do your homework. And so I would say no on that. Then for the nuisance and the disorderly 4 and 5, I agree with the ACLU. It is unconstitutional. And I will instruct the people that anyone that votes for these ordinances to immediately stand afterwards and we gather to file in the court against the body for a declaratory of no confidence in those who vote for these ordinances. So that's what I instruct the people, to gather their voice together and assert their authority against the body if they so ignore the people's voices. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else who wishes to be heard? And then I'm going to close this public hearing.
Right here. How you doing, everybody? My name is D. Jones, and I'd like to speak about the ordinances. So, like, a little while ago, they had the cars and coffees downtown, and that's where you get all the luxury cars like the Ferraris and the BMWs and the really luxurious cars out there. Like, these cars are 6 and 7 figures. And as I was walking over there, I seen all of the people that are unhoused. Now, I don't care if anybody likes me or not, but I guarantee you I've brought a lot of food and spent a lot of time bringing people food from the city. When the city does these community engagement events, I take the food that you guys don't use or that you would probably throw away or give to the staff, and I would give those to those unhoused people that didn't know where they were going to eat, didn't know where they were going to get food. Like, I can't tell you the happiness, and like, they really look like scavengers. Like, they really look like they really be scavenging these boxes, and they just be so hungry. And like, I grew up on SSI, I grew up on poverty. I grew up like really struggling, like, and that made me strong, but I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for poverty. I didn't ask for none of that. If I could, I wouldn't say I want to be white. I'd still be black, but I'd be a rich black person. I'd be a rich black person if I could have my way. but I've spent a lot of time, and I spent a lot of time in carrying boxes, heavy boxes of food, giving it to those unhoused people. And like to hear that people can get locked up. Like I be downtown when people are lit, and I be downtown when people are all in front of the bars. I be out there. I be seeing the police officers. They be seeing me. I be out there. They see me doing a lot of things, and I be out there with the hood. I be out there with everybody. But I don't think it's cool that we can have a lot of 8-figure cars. And when you total those cars up, those cars are at least 8 figures, and then we got unhoused people right down the street. I don't think that's cool. We need to find solutions like 3D printing house. We need 34,699 units by 2027. We can 3D print some houses. The Housing Commission got slots. You guys can buy those properties for $1,000 and partner with a nonprofit. You have to be a nonprofit, but you can buy those cities lots. There's funding through the state. You can use that funding. Why is nobody talk about 3D printing houses and buying printers and printing these houses and creating low profit housing and printing those houses on the south side so then people can actually get these houses. You can print houses for at least $4,000 to $10,000. Look at the property value and think of the property value of a house already here in the city of GR. That's a solution right there, and that's creating equity. That's creating thousands of dollars from a small investment. What are we doing with our time? What are we doing with these people? These people are human beings just like y'all in suits. Just how y'all look nice. These people are human beings just like y'all.
All right, thanks. Others wish to be heard?
Mayor, Commission, my name is Josh Lunger. I'm a resident of the city of Grand Rapids. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. It's obviously a challenging and complex issue dealing with anything in public space. I want to highlight a lot of what was said this morning. I found it very helpful to be here. I appreciate the work that staff has put into intentionality around this. And what is being addressed is a very narrowly specific behavioral issue. Everything else, everything else that we're all working on is addressing issues around struggling with housing and unhoused individuals and finding solutions. And that work is a long-term commitment. And I know many of you are personally invested in trying to find meaningful and measurable solutions for that across the housing spectrum. What we're talking about is a very specific, what is appropriate use in a public space, and we're providing clarification around really 2 key areas: the accumulation of excessive property.
Stop, do not interrupt him, let him speak.
Thank you. And repeated accosting of individuals in what has been defined as captive audiences. It's very specific. I appreciate that further definitions were provided this morning. I greatly thought it was helpful that staff talked about the intentionality behind the training, who's going to be leading the discussion, the information, the education in the community, that public works staff, hot team, and other folks will be the main individuals going out and informing folks of the change and about how, even in the past 6 months, we've seen it. Just talking about, hey, this is a challenge for some, or this is having an impact. A lot of individuals like the clarity. Again, I know this is a challenging topic. I'm sure all of us in this room would rather be talking about other more positive things. But I appreciate that we are not just ignoring an issue. When I talk to peers across the country, municipalities, metros, they ignore an issue. No one wants to take responsibility. They don't want to address anything because of this issue, because of what we're seeing. The context doesn't matter. You could change every definition in there. You're still going to have headlines, and you're still going to get shouted at. So I appreciate that you stuck with it. And I appreciate that.
Okay, let him speak. Everyone has a right to be heard regardless of whether you agree with them.
For several years, we hear.
Brandon, if you interrupt again, I'm going to ask you to leave.
On behalf of the small business owners, the entrepreneurs, the residents downtown, nobody else wants to stand in front because of this. And so unfortunately, I'm up here speaking. I just want to say thank you. I know it's been challenging, and I know there's a lot more challenging work ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Others wish to be heard? Stop. Do not yell at people who come here to speak. Everyone has a right to be heard, whether you agree with them or not.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Jace Bolger. My wife Molly and I bought a place in the Row just about 2015. Our kids have since moved here. Our kids are now adults. Our son is about a half mile that direction, our daughter about a mile that direction. The point is, we love Grand Rapids. We're enjoying the city, and we appreciate your thoughtful approach. It's not an either help those in need or have reasonable expectations for behavior in public spaces. Many seem to misunderstand or misrepresent what you're entertaining tonight, as was clear and made clear in the workshop earlier today. I would add, and I would argue, it's not compassionate to ignore this or decline this ordinance, because it's not compassionate to a small business owner who's invested their life savings to have a place in this community and risks their livelihood by allowing their customers to be chased away. It's not compassionate for residents of this community to have public spaces treated as bedrooms and have the understandable consequence or the expected consequence of that being a bedroom happen. And most importantly, it's not compassionate for the unhoused, as we see their life expectancy is shortened by decades for living on the street. And so therefore, I want to thank you. I've seen all of your action, and thank you for pursuing a both and solution. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Others wish to be heard?
My name is Divine. I'm a native of Grand Rapids. I intentionally came last in the representation of the homeless population because I am that. I have experienced that homelessness definitely involves substance abuse, mental health issues, but most importantly, it's controlled through systems and systems thinking. The opportunity to speak on this really just overwhelms me because of the far-reaching systems that I have experienced in homelessness and the systematic control, even going out of state. I personally think that you deal with mismanagement, making some of the wrong choices, but most importantly, the way that you have things structured in regards to housing. So what I mean by that specifically is you got a lot of complexities with housing, and development can lead to displacement, and it's very important that the homeless population is recognized, because it's not race specific, it's not age specific, and it's not sex specific. But the way that it is tailored with solutions definitely entails that type of mentality to create certain barriers. So when we're talking specifically about this ordinance, I can recognize the behavioral issues. However, we already have the ordinance in place to address indecency, and it just is plain and out, right? You already have the ordinances to address everything that you're already talking about. So, it's really just cut and dry already that the focus needs to be more on solution-oriented networks and the actual resources to respond to them properly, whether that be substance abuse, mental health, or even those that are service resistant, and trying to find a solution to incorporate what's needed.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to close that public comment period, and that will take us to our next item, which is approval of our minutes. And we have two items before us. One is our regular session on July 11th, and then we had a special meeting on July 13th in partnership with our Planning Commission. Commissioners, can I get a motion?
Move.
Support. All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next up, we'll take us to petitions and communications.
The first one is a communication received from Nick Wassmiller expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Michael Nelson, Chief Operating Officer and Chief People Officer for Amway Corporation, expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Rob Munger, President CEO of Exodus Place, expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Michael Ellis, President of Ellis Parking, expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Thomas Tooley, Executive Vice President of Ghaffari Associates, expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Paul W. Beams, Executive Director for Warner Norcross and Judd LLP, expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Paula C. Huel, CEO Enhorn LLC, expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Greg Skierbeck, President CEO of Eichenhout Incorporated, expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Jerry Koyman, expressing support for the proposed ordinance amendments.
That's received and filed.
Communication received from Dennis B. Murphy, including suggestions to aid the unhoused, an example of the Grand Rapids Police Department helping when issues arise.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Meredith Bradley, expressing support for the ACLU's position on the proposed ordinances.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Tammy Vandenberg, co-owner of the Pyramid Scheme, and the Meanwhile, expressing opposition to the proposed ordinances and offering suggestions and solutions.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Mark Baker, Soft Light Foundation's president, regarding LED lights.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Salim Al Shatal regarding the resignation from the City Planning Commission.
That is referred to our city committee on appointments.
Communication received by Pete Walsh regarding the unhoused.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Aja Jackson urging the City Commission to reject proposed ordinance amendments.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Stephanie Maybe urging the City Commission to vote no on the proposed ordinance amendments.
That is received and filed.
Communication, 118 of them received urging the City Commission to vote no on the proposed ordinance amendments.
That is received and filed.
4 communications received expressing support for the proposed ordinances.
That is received and filed.
And communication received from Lucas Leverett with community-centered ideas.
And that is also received and filed. All right, that will take us to reports of city officers.
The first one is Commissioner Drew Robbins participating remotely at the meeting of the City Commission on July 25, 2023.
That is received and filed.
City Manager's endorsement of the River Equity Framework.
That's received and filed.
Comptroller's report for the period of June 28, 2023 through July 11, 2023 in the amount of $18,408,546.62.
That's received and filed.
And Treasurer's report for the period of June 23, 2023 through July 12, 2023.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda are items that we voted on earlier today where there was a unanimous vote. So tonight with one voice vote, we'll adopt those items. Commissioners, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
Moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to our ordinances to be adopted, and we have 5 items before us tonight.
The first one is an ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2023-15 for fiscal year 2024, Amendment Number 1.
Moved.
Support. All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Perdue from our Fiscal Committee, you want to tell us about this item?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. So there's a number of items, 6 items. I'll try to give you a little bit of detail, but keep this going. So the first item on here is related or from the Fiscal Services Department in relation to Enterprise Resource Planning Software. So it's a budget amendment in the amount of $7 million for fees and costs associated with the Enterprise Resource Planning Software, training, implementation, integrations, extended cloud service, and an investment manager. And this will be covered by ARPA funds. No impact on the general fund. The next item is from the Water Department related to a Bristol Avenue utility project for a budget amendment in the amount of $315,000 for a utility construction project in cooperation with the City of Walker. The cost of this will be eventually covered, or the cost of this will be recovered through future Walker user rates of that system. The third item is from the Fire Department related to a 2023 FEMA AFG fire grant. And so that is a budget amendment in the amount of $84,828 to implement a grant program. This would include exercise equipment and wellness screenings of all suppression staff. The next item is from the Police Department related to the 2020 COPS hiring grant. They are requesting to recognize and appropriate funding for, or in the amount of $494,928 with $218,750 coming from the U.S. Department of Justice, COPS, the COPS program, and another $218,750 as the city match. This will support 5 community police officer positions. The fifth amendment is from the Police Department related to a police record specialist. It is a budget amendment in the amount of $91,608 to add 1 police record specialist to the permanent personnel roster, and this would improve response time to FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests for reports and video. And then the last budget amendment is also from the Police Department related to emergency federal law enforcement assistance grant in the amount of $2,098.99 to appropriate grant funding received for overtime incurred during the coordinated response to the active shooter at Michigan State University earlier this year in February. And those are all of the items on that budget amendment.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, that's a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. And Commissioners, can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to our second ordinance to be adopted tonight.
It's a consideration of amendments to the zoning ordinance, Chapter 61 of the City Code pertaining to the billboard exchange program.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Knight, you want to tell us about this item? Oh, City Manager, did you want me to refer to you first? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Before the City Commission considers the item, I wanted to remind the Commission that these were amendments that were reviewed by the Planning Commission, but also brought forth by staff in order to adjust the zoning ordinance pertaining to the billboard exchange. And as we presented these proposed amendments last week for your consideration this week, one of the things that came to our attention, both by letter as well as by comment by current commissioner, was to make the changes that would occur in the downtown city center subject to special land use. That is not reflected in the current amendments before you, and if that were the case, we would not be able to prepare the appropriate language with the city attorney's review for your consideration tonight. So if you would continue to consider this ordinance, your options would be to consider as is, but if you wanted to have further amendments, it would require a delay and for the item to be brought back at your next meeting with staff review.
All right, thank you, City Manager. I know I was one of them that brought concerns about the language. I know I brought them up at the Committee of the Whole as well. My preference would be for us to bring this back at a later date and take a little bit more time to address concerns that have been raised. Commissioners, do you have, it's on the table, it's moved and supported. Commissioner Knight, you want to?
Yeah, I would prefer, I think I asked a question about public comment on this, and I believe that there was public comment during the Planning Commission, but not brought before the community, so I would definitely be in favor of holding off on this right now and setting up an opportunity for public comment on this particular item.
All right. So you're proposing not only to make some additional changes, but then also schedule a public hearing
Correct.
before it comes back for a final vote?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, additional questions or comments?
I just wanted to, City Manager, did you say that what was presented to us isn't reflected in this language, and so we need to go back and make sure that it's up to date?
No, what was presented is exactly what you have before you today. What was discussed since the briefing was additional amendments that would require special land use consideration for the city center, and that is not in this language.
Okay, got it. So it'll come back for us for a briefing and then to vote.
We could certainly brief it at the next morning meeting, as well as put it back on the agenda that evening with proposed amendments.
Yeah, I think that would be the most transparent, to kind of brief us in public in a full meeting before it comes to a vote again.
Yeah.
So I would support delay in with that expectation.
All right.
Since I made the original motion, Madam Mayor, I'd move to amend my motion to postpone this vote. What's that?
To a date certain.
To a date, to our next city commission meeting, whatever that
On
date
August
is.
8th?
On August 8th.
Okay.
I support.
All right. Moved and supported for it to come back on August 8th. Any additional questions or comments? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, we'll revisit that at our next meeting. And Commissioner Knight, thank you for those comments. In hindsight, we likely probably should have scheduled a public hearing on that. So that will take us to our third ordinance before us tonight.
It's an ordinance amending Chapter 151 nuisances of the City Code to exempt Grand Rapids Kent County Convention Arena, Grand Rapids Kent County Convention Arena Authority Amphitheater.
All right.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Moody, you want to tell us about this item?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. On July 21 of 23 of this year, the City Commission established July 25th this day as a date to consider an amendment to Article 5, Chapter 151 of the Grand Rapids City Code, which regulates nuisance within the city. The code establishes prohibited noise and also sets performance standards for use within certain land use districts. The code further allows for exemptions for prohibition and performance standards in Section 966, which allows Section 966 currently to enumerate 5 exemptions for prohibited noise. The proposed ordinance amended would have 6 exemptions in Section 966 for the amphitheater venue under the ownership and control of the Grand Rapids Kent County Convention Arena Authority in preparation for the outdoor amphitheater that is planned to be located in the Market Avenue of Southwest Corridor. Under proposed amendment, such venues would be exempt from noise control ordinance between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. The proposed ordinance also allows for the city manager and his designee or a grant extension for performance hours if unforeseen circumstances delay in performance. The flexibility allows for the shows to be completed on the day in which they are originally scheduled as often as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, questions or comments on this item? Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have received some feedback from particularly one residential project in downtown. I know during the original approval process, the original design of the amphitheater was facing south, and a sound study was done that showed that would have a pretty detrimental impact on neighborhoods to the south, given the orientation of the parcel as it relates to the river and into the community. And so the decision was made to reorient the project to the north, given its proximity to the highway, with a sound study that supported the fact that would be that the highway itself would have a pretty significant impact on reducing the volume of sound. item of note that I think gives me confidence because of the approval that was given. The language as presented in the Planning Commission approval reads, quote, "The applicant shall continue to work with the city to evaluate potential sound noise resulting from the use and implement any necessary mitigation measures through final site and architectural design to the extent necessary." I know there's an independent secondary sound study being done, and so knowing that that study is being done, the department has approval power over site design and can request and require additional mitigation efforts to be in place if in fact the independent sound study comes back that says there may be some additional decibel volumes impacting folks. I'm confident in moving forward with this. I do know again that there's been the one project at Plaza Towers, so I just would ask that the continued dialogue be given from the department to Plaza Towers, just kind of keeping them abreast and making sure that they're in communication with whatever decisions are going to get made, because they're the closest residential project to the property. But I do feel comfortable moving forward with the decision to approve this tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for highlighting that language. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Knight?
To what you said, Commissioner O'Connor, I just want to make sure that we are mitigating excess noise and sound that may be impacting the neighbors in that area, especially after, we had an issue in the second ward with a number of neighbors having to deal with sound issues that were very disturbing for people who are in that area. So making sure that those voices are lifted up and that they are taken into account when and if this all moves forward. And then also thinking about how we're changing this ordinance for this specific area down here. How is that going to impact other areas in the community? Are they just taken on a case-by-case basis, or are we just saying, okay, well, we're going to do this for this particular area? How does that impact other businesses who may want to have business or sound going on beyond 11 o'clock?
Yeah, City Manager, you want to respond to that?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. Going to your first question, I think, as Commissioner O'Connor indicated, the applicant will be required to have special land use consideration and has been made aware of some of the concerns both by the Planning Commission as well as the third-party consultant. And the design is still very preliminary, and they have indicated they are very willing to work to address some of those concerns. So I think there is the possibility of all of the concerns being addressed by the time the final plans are submitted. Secondly, I think to your question about how this pertains to other neighborhoods, and specifically, I know that we have some outdoor events and large outdoor events, for instance, in your ward at Belknap Park. The last event being Upheaval. And I think the neighborhood characteristics are very different, even though there's residential neighbors in the downtown area. It is more of a traditional neighborhood in up on the hill, and I don't think the conditions in which we're talking about for the amphitheater would be applicable in that area. But certainly, if that is something that neighbors and event sponsors will want to consider, we would go through the same process. But right now, it's uniquely designed for that one location.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Perdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. All right, next that will take us to our fourth ordinance before us tonight.
This is a consideration of an ordinance amending Section 9.10A and adding Section 9.10A to Chapter 151 Nuisances of the Grand Rapids City Code.
So moved.
Do I have a support?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Isasi, you want to tell us about this?
Thank you. Yes, this is ordinance that we have been discussing and asked to consider these amendments to to the nuisance provision of the city code around the issues of public health and safety. These amendments would add additional provisions around specifically around the storage of personal property on public property. A public hearing was held at our July 11th meeting pursuant to our notice of the public hearing, and a summary of the ordinance was provided. There is also a companion ordinance amending provisions of the city code on disorderly conduct that is next on the agenda. To give a little bit more of a full history, there's also been some background information that was received initially by our Public Safety Committee in the process of developing these ordinances, and that was on June 13th of this year. The materials detail operational ailment efforts across our city services, different investments that we've made in facilities and other services to focus on root causes and conditions that may lead to public health and safety concerns. So these efforts, along with the proposed amendment to our city code, are expected to provide a compassionate approach to addressing the public health and safety concerns originally brought forth in December of 2022. I want to highlight some of these amendment pieces. One is more clearly define personal property and the amount of personal property that can be stored on public property, provide clear guidance for when the city must provide notice to the individual before impounding personal property that violates the nuisance code, and provide procedures for an individual to reclaim their impounded property. I also want to add, the memo does continue, but I do want to add, Mayor, from our Committee of the Whole meeting today, the presentation that Ms. Behrens gave, there were some modifications that were noted, specifically to make clear that there would be no fees charged for property redeemed within the required time frame. I'll also note that this proposed language also, I think it was probably in 2021, where we began to work with our coordinated team in our executive office, along with different providers around storage of personal items. So that was members of our previous commission and some of us, and that investment has also continued. So I wanted to note that as well. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Perdue?
Thank you. We've been talking about this for a few months, and some of the roots of this conversation preceded my joining commission. And I am appreciative of all the progress that we've made on these items and in this conversation. However, I am not ready to support this ordinance tonight. I do think the proposal is strong in its narrow scope.
No clapping.
And its incorporation of feedback from prior conversations, and these changes are examples of compromise. And yet, the 3-meeting time gap from initial briefing to public hearing to vote is too fast for me and for the public. I have not seen significant engagement with service providers, and I fear this will lead to gaps and unintended consequences that we might not yet see. In the last few days, as I've talked with providers, they brought up great questions that should also be part of this conversation and up for consideration. However, I believe that our time frame and our process did not allow for the full extent of those concerns to properly surface. And I worry how all of those factors will bode publicly and what sorts of responses and behavior this might empower. As I looked and considered my vote for tonight, I thought rationally about what language is proposed and the concerns and criticisms that we've heard. But I also thought about what this means for our community. And we know the importance of trust building and building trust in government and each other. In the last few months that I've been here, we have added a new role to our communications office to increase communication with the community, with the public. We have invested in engagement roles. We talk a lot about community and police relationships. And so while we have made these investments, ultimately we as a body set the tone of an example of inclusion and transparency for the city. And it's for those reasons why I'm appreciative of city staff's efforts and all of our conversations up here. It is for those reasons that I will not be supporting these changes tonight, and I encourage and urge others to join me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Perdue.
Don't interrupt, Commissioner.
I think this language, some of us have certainly had more time with this language. I do agree the language has become narrow. It started at one spot, which I think there were a number of us who would not support that. And as we continue to focus on what was in front of us, it became, I think, a point where we did need to make some changes to our ordinances. I'm somebody who pretty much says what I think of how I am planning on voting. I find that helpful for myself to hold myself accountable. And so I feel like I've said the same thing since our public safety meeting that we first held on June 13th regarding this updated narrow language. I think for me, the other reason why I will be voting to support these ordinances today is because of these other items I'm speaking, is city additional rapid rehousing investments of $500,000, which is above our adopted fiscal year 24 budget of $9.4 million, and we're expected to add $10 million when the sale of 201 Market is finalized. Quite honestly, a commitment to align street outreach efforts around housing first approach, transparency, and accountability. I've talked to a number of people. I used to previously work in more of the workforce development arena. We know that these systems are not working. We know that people are frustrated. We know that sometimes there's duplication. I appreciate the work of Ms. Behrens and others, Mayor, you, and City Manager as well, on a number of calls to unravel this street outreach work. Focus efforts on housing readiness as it relates to our Fusion Center, Crossroads Bible Church. Some of those efforts came out of the public safety meetings that were noted that happened earlier this year. In our fiscal year 24 budget, we voted unanimously on for the proactive cleaning program that will be in specific corridors, parks, and parking ramps. This is something that I've heard specifically from probably in the second ward, Michigan Street, our corridor improvement authorities, specifically on the Division Avenue corridor, I would say also the Burton Heights Business District. I know I'm calling out a few. It's not all of them, but certainly that has been noted. Having a coordinated complaint referral system to make sure with our police department and fire department that we are looking at looking at these complaints one-to-one. I think sometimes there were examples of when one story sort of became the story that happened 10 times. I think we needed to unravel that as well, because I do think there was some misinformation that was happening about things that were occurring, and then there was also some true information that was happening about things that were occurring. Improving our protocol, certainly around identification and storing of personal property, as well as I think what I've heard a strong desire from this body to have regular updates as it relates to the work, specifically that the additional investments that we made in the rapid rehousing pieces, and also the tracking of different housing pieces that we've had out of the Housing Trust Fund from this year. So with all of that, I think I said it at the last meeting, this is sort of the best out of a really not great situation that no one here created, that individuals are experiencing in many different ways that are in front of us, and we have to deal with it. And so can't decide the type of term we're all going to get. It's been full, all of you that are new, it's been full of a lot of different pieces that we've had to vote on, and some important issues that will have long-term impacts. We talked about that today. So I hope we'll be able to continue as we go through like our facilities master planning process to look at different properties we have. And just as we did with the sale of 201 Market, continue to look for ways, hopefully around community benefits agreements and other pieces that can support our goals around affordable housing. So while I did not support where this conversation initially started, I will be supporting these ordinances this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Others who wish to be heard? Stop it.
Madam Mayor.
It is the Commissioner's opportunity to speak.
Madam Mayor, like Commissioner Yasasi said earlier, and I just kind of want to reiterate, when these ordinances first came to us, we all rejected them. We were not happy with them. We were not satisfied with them. And what we did was we allowed for the city attorney to go through them, and we looked at our code, we looked at our charter to see where we were. And we have heard and listened to every one of you, and we've taken everything that each and every one of you had said, and we took it into light. This has not been an easy decision for any of us. We know that we're going to get some backlash. But it is important for you to understand that as we looked at these ordinances is not just for the downtown Grand Rapids area, it's for the entire city of Grand Rapids. And these ordinances were not designed to arrest anybody or put anybody in jail, because those were the things that we pondered and pushed that we did not want to see happen. Now, I've heard us talk about racism. We've been talking about homelessness. We've been talking about housing. All those things are things that we've been working on ever since I've been on the city commission for the past 5 years. Now, we live in a city where there is problems. But how do we change those problems? Well, we change them by us all working together. We don't change them by you cutting us up, calling us out our names, and talking about what we should do and what we shouldn't do. Our benefit is for this entire city. So tonight, I would be voting yes on these ordinances for the improvement of the city of Grand Rapids.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Knight?
Thank you to my colleagues and their comments. There has been a lot of work to go into this. A lot of this started before I came onto this commission, but I'm not new to the space from the work that I've done in the community and lived experience in this space. And I've done a lot of pondering. There have been a lot of conversation around criminalization. When I started this work, I said that's one thing that I'm not ever going to do because I know the impacts, the trauma, the pain that puts upon a person when you don't have anything, when you don't have hope, when you can't see a future, when you can't see tomorrow. That's very difficult for people to begin to navigate through life when you just don't know. But I struggled quite a bit with a few things, and I think what really kind of brought it to a head is that I had a memory of something that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that happened as I was downtown, I'll say if I had not identified myself, I would have been caught up in the midst of a situation where they didn't know who I was, and it could have went really, really bad. And that's unfortunate. And that says to me that there's a lot more education that needs to go on. We can't control everyone's biases. So understand that. And each one of us has them, and we walk through life with them on the ways that we have been conditioned throughout life. And until we get to a place where we see people's humanity and not their situationalness, we're going to continue to have issues. Now, do we need to make changes? Absolutely. Not just downtown. This is citywide. Yes, we absolutely do. Yes, we need to provide opportunities, and I think that our community has provided opportunities for people to know that their things are safe, that they can put them somewhere. We've talked about if someone has a medical emergency, how we're going to address those issues and make sure that people's things are not thrown away as someone's discarded stuff. We have made great strides in making sure that the language is matching up to what we need to do legally. However, as people, we have still fallen a little bit short. And I'm very hesitant. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'm going to vote yes on this tonight. And this is not because of anybody, because I walk through life and I know what I've dealt with and I know my history. And so I don't have to necessarily kowtow to anyone. No one pays me, okay? So I need y'all to understand that. But what I will say,
no clapping.
And I don't,
let people
listen, this is real for each and every one of us that sits up here. You may or may not believe it, and that's totally up to you. I talk to these people and I work with these people, and we may not always agree, but I do think that we need to do a little bit more. And with community rebuilders stepping in with this rapid rehousing, with the extra money that's coming from Kent County and from the nonprofit community that's going to help work towards rehousing a lot of our people who are unhoused at this time, with some of the changes that are going to happen with our planning commission and the amount of people that are unrelated that can live in a building, or how many people being able to build grandmother or mother-in-law What'd you call it?
Accessory dwelling.
Accessory dwelling units. That is going to add to the ability to get, as Mr. O'Connor would say, more heads in beds and off of the street. So I think we've got some processes that we still need to work through. And I commend the city staff for all the work that they've been doing, because they have been hustling to try to put things together, answering all of our questions because we listened to what you were saying and we went back and asked them for these changes. But again, what they've done in here doesn't change people out there. And because I had that incident a couple of weeks ago, it made me step back and think again. We are all human, and we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And so I hope that we will all step up and recognize what's going on around us and help to add to the solution.
Thanks, Commissioner.
That's it.
Thank you. Thanks. Any additional questions or comments? Commissioner Robbins, anything to add before I call the vote?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just one quick thing to add. I mean, I know I've shared some of my personal feelings and sentiments about the proposed ordinance changes at our last meeting. I just want to acknowledge, I mean, we do hear the concerns that some people have voiced about this. Nonetheless, this issue is not specific to our city, and many cities across our country are struggling with housing affordability and the unhoused community as well. And so the ones that have found solutions that are most effective and most, in my opinion, compassionate to every single individual is to take a both-and approach. And so I'm proud of our community for taking a step into uncharted territories and kind of an uncomfortable space for all of us to find a solution that I believe does accomplish that. So I just want to put on the record that I will be supporting this.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions? All right, I'll call the question. City Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Perdue?
No.
Commissioner Knight?
No.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. All right, that will take us to our fifth ordinance tonight to be adopted.
And that is an ordinance, consideration of ordinance amending section 9.136 of chapter 152, disorderly conduct of the Grand Rapids City Code.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner O'Connor, you want to tell us about this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The City Commission is being asked to consider an amendment to the disorderly conduct provisions of the City Code. These code amendments would add definitions of loitering and accost and prohibit such conduct in defined circumstances or in defined locations. They're very time and place in terms of manner. Since our last meeting, there were some minor changes to the definition of loitering. Loitering means to lingering or hanging around without any apparent purpose in a place described in section 2C and 2D of this section. If you go to the ordinance specifically, definitions of loitering means, as previously stated, lingering or hanging around without any apparent purpose or in a place described in section 2C or 2D of this section. Accost means repeated, non-consensual conduct directed to another person in such a manner that it would cause a reasonable person to feel harassed, intimidated, or that a commission of a criminal act was to occur. Part 2 of the ordinance states that no person shall A, engage in the peeping in the windows of an inhabited place, B, make an indecent exposure of his or her person, C, loiter in any public building or in any other building or premises owned by another person after having been requested to leave by a lawful owner or occupant or representative of the owner or occupant, D, loiter or obstruct a doorway in a manner that interferes with the functioning of a doorway or an individual's ability to pass through the doorway. Item E is to accost another person. These are the time and place specific definitions within 20 feet of an automated teller machine, in any public transportation vehicle such as a bus or train, or within 20 feet of where such a vehicle takes or releases passengers. Item 3, in any outdoor dining area or within 20 feet of any outdoor space where individuals are consuming food or beverage. Item 4, at any permitted special event within 20 feet of a permitted special event entrance or exit. Item F, knowingly engage in or advertise any business which offers its principal activity of providing nude models for artists or photographers. And item G relates to firing or shooting of an airbow, which was a previous definition we passed a couple years ago.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner?
For the same reasons of the last proposed ordinance, I will be voting no on this. The timeline, the lack of engagement of service providers and those who will be most impacted, in addition to the potential gaps and unintended consequences due to that lack of engagement. And I believe that it is up to us to set the tone for transparency and inclusion. And I think that we could have done a better job in order to get to a stronger product. So I will be no on this, and I hope others consider to join me.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to note that for any ordinances, some that we have different timelines, so there is a 30-day implementation window. I also want to highlight that connecting with our service providers, connecting with different organizations is occurring right now with the Continuum of Care. I know that you've been an active member of that, as well as other members of, I think, Ms. Behrens, you also attend the Continuum of Care work. As well as a number of those individuals connected to, I would say, the regular standing meetings that we have, different bodies that may not be directly related to this ordinance, but would be in connection, coordination, including the past couple years' work with the HOT team, as well as the work with the Community Development Department. I don't see Connie here, but associated with our HUD dollars that we have, and any other, our workforce dollars, other pieces that would flow through the federal government, and regular connection and coordination with those organizations. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'll add, we also continue to work with our partners at the county and the state around funding with the Crisis Stabilization Unit, other medical services for individuals who are experiencing a mental health crisis or substance use crisis, as well as some of our nonprofit organizations who are focused on housing first and rapid rehousing. So thank you for elevating that. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments? All right. City Clerk, please call the question. This is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Perdue?
No.
Commissioner Knight?
No.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
And Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, Commissioners, that will take us to our resolutions, and to consider the two resolutions before us tonight, I need a motion to suspend the rules. And
So
can I
moved.
get
Support.
moved and supported? And Commissioners, that is to suspend the rules for both items before us tonight. All those in favor of suspending the rules say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. We have two resolutions before us tonight. We'll go with the first one. City Clerk?
First one is a City Commission resolution approving settlement in Michigan Department of Civil Rights, XRL Melissa Mason versus Grand Rapids Police Department, and Michigan Department of Civil Rights, Melissa Mason versus Grand Rapids Police Department and City of Grand Rapids.
All right, can I get a motion?
Moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. City Attorney, do you want to add anything to this item?
Just that we had this is a proven agreement of a settlement that we agreed to on July 18th. And so we're asking the commission to approve it so that we can satisfy our agreement.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments related to this item? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to our second resolution before us tonight.
It's a City Commission resolution authorizing entry of participation agreements in partial settlement of the National Prescription Opiate litigation and entry of state local government intrastate agreement concerning allocation of settlement proceeds, Walgreens.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. City Attorney, you want to tell us about this item as well?
This is just to allow us to participate in the global settlement of the opiate crisis. And so there's been national litigation over this, and this allows us to be part of that lawsuit and reap any allocations of dollars to help us address some of the issues that resulted from the opiates.
Yeah, thank you.
And there's a part two.
Okay.
It approves me or a designee for our office to be able to have conversations about the dollars that are going to be allocated to the city of Grand Rapids.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know commissioners' questions have been raised about how these dollars from the opioid settlements will be utilized. There is some language within the lawsuit that the funds have to be used to support services as well as costs that we've accrued over the years because of the epidemic, and it'll enable us to support organizations in our community who are helping with responding to individuals who've been harmed. And so that will be a conversation that we have in the future, and we'll have some additional conversations about how to move forward. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that's going to take us to our two scheduled public hearings tonight. We have the first scheduled public hearing. So the City Commission is sitting to hear appeals related to a special assessment for the Downtown Improvement District, number 8780. So we'll start with having Paula come up and tell us about this item. If you are in this assessed district and you want to be heard and appeal that assessment, I'll open it up in a moment for you to come forward. This public hearing is only for individuals who are in the assessed district, so we'll ask you to share your name and your address so that we can follow up appropriately.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Paula Jastifer. I'm the City Assessor, and at the request of the Downtown Improvement District Board, the Assessor's Office has prepared Special Assessment Roll 8780 in accordance with the district plan that was the City Commission approved back in May. Property owners were sent notices on June 1st and notified of the assessment amount in the appeal process. The Special Assessment Roll has been open to the public for the required 2 weeks starting on June 1st and all the way through today. In addition, a copy of the assessment roll has been posted to the city website. We have not received any appeals as of tonight. So tonight, the City Commission convenes as the Board of Review to hear appeals of these assessments, and it's the final opportunity to submit an appeal. So I'll be in room 921 for anybody to take, wishing to file an appeal. And with that, we'll review the appeals and follow up on the August 8th meeting.
Great. Thank you. Is there anyone here tonight who is a part of the assessment district who wishes to be heard, who wants to appeal that assessment? All right, seeing none, we'll close that public hearing, and that will be referred, as Paula said, back to the City Commission at a later date. All right, next up, we'll take us to our second public hearing, and this is to consider a second amendment to the Brownfield plan for the Steelcase Campus project. This is located at 1151 44th Street Southeast. The purpose of this hearing is to consider an approval of this Brownfield plan. A notice of this hearing has been made in writing pursuant to Act 381, Public Acts of Michigan 1996, as amended, to the City Assessor, City Treasurer, State Treasurer, MEDC, MDEQ, and the legislative body of each taxing unit, which levies property taxes in the city of Grand Rapids. They've all been notified of this public hearing with time and location. So for this public hearing, we will start by giving our Economic Development Director, Mr. Gracia, an opportunity to share some details about this item. And then we will invite anyone from the project who wishes to come up and share information. I'll turn to my colleagues to see if they have any questions, and then if you want to be heard specifically on this item, I'll open up the public hearing after that. Mr. Grasso, you want to tell us about this item?
Yes, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, City Manager, and City Attorney and Clerk. So this public hearing this evening is for a project located at 1151 44th Street Southeast, just south of the existing Steelcase campus. On the southern boundary of City of Grand Rapids corporation limits. This is a new exciting project for EnviroClean to construct its new 47,000 square foot essentially Grand Rapids headquarters. They plan to occupy about 17,000 square feet of that, and then the remaining 30,000 will be for speculative warehouse available for prospective tenants. There are roughly a little under 270 field associates working within the property. 30 of those will actually be new that will be there on a regular basis. for the operations themselves. And so all of the calculations in ROI that we've talked about has been conservative based on those 30 new jobs to the city. Total construction cost is, again, a little over $6 million. And just like we do with any other economic development incentive requests, we ask that they complete an inclusion plan. They have done so and come in at just over $700,000, or about just under 12% of the total construction costs for this project. We are seeking the eligible activity costs to reimburse over those 7 years, and with proper approval, they will start construction as soon as this summer, and then looking at anticipated completion in fall of '24. I do have representatives, owners, family-owned members of the company to speak about the project as well.
Great, thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you for entertaining our project, or the Brownfield process. My name is Dan. I'm not used to this.
That's okay. Take your time.
My name is Dan Custer. I started the business back in 1975. Yeah, I was it. It's grown quite a bit through the years, and we've been in Grand Rapids for about 20 years now. We've got a location on Eastern, but we've outgrown it. And we've found this property right around the street from where our present office is, and it's a beautiful, nice location on 44th Street. We're glad to be in the city of Grand Rapids. We do a lot of business in the city of Grand Rapids, and our life in Grand Rapids has been really good. So.
Thank you.
Any questions you folks have of what we're doing out there?
So Dan, thanks for being here. For those who aren't familiar with your company, can you just share a little bit about the work that you do?
Sure. We're a contract cleaning service. We clean offices, industrial buildings, schools, medical. We're located in Holland. That's where our main office is going to continue to be, but this is actually going to be a nicer building, so I think everybody in Holland is probably going to want to work in Grand Rapids. But we want to build a nice building because we want to be able to attract and retain the top quality people. That is kind of what we did in Holland.
Yeah, thanks. You serve a lot of clients here in the city of Grand Rapids.
We do.
So, yeah, yes. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Madam
Commissioner
Mayor,
Moody, go ahead.
I sit on the Economic Development Board in Brownfield, and this has come before us, and we voted unanimously to accept this project. I think that the project is going to be set in the 3rd Ward, 44th Street, and looking forward to seeing progress continue to take place in that area.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
It's
Commissioner.
going to be a beautiful addition for your piece of property that's looked pretty bad for a lot of years, so we're excited.
Yeah, it's in need of some redevelopment. So,
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right. So if you are here tonight, you can take a seat, and then if there's specific questions that you can answer that are raised tonight, I might have you come back up. So if you are here tonight to be heard on this Brownfield amendment plan, please come forward. Again, we ask that you share your name and the city that you live in, and again, it's specific to the request before us for a Brownfield.
Yeah, my name is Cindy Hicks, and anyways, I do have comments because I'm doing cleaning myself and teaching my daughter how to do bids, and just got my EPA certification like last week. Thank you. Getting the word out for that, it's really hard, but I have to wonder, like, the environmental cleaning services that are being offered, is that helping with the city's lead problem? And the average wage, why is it $18 an hour? Takes $20 an hour to rent an apartment. I mean, I am a landlord. I always ask my colleagues, so if you think the wages are high enough, would you rent to the person? Long silence. Yeah, so when you're offering wages that aren't enough for people to rent apartments in the area, but they get a tax credit, which is using Brownfield development dollars, once again, it's not going to anyone in the community. It's not providing enough wages to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. I consistently want to know why there are tax refunds, and they dissolve in 7 years. She took down all the information when it's time for everyone to speak. So now we don't have the facts or figures anymore. And I just don't think this is a very transparent way to do public hearings. And every time there is a planning or zoning issue, it's never noticed in the public. There's not signs put up on a spot from someone that wants a variance. Nobody knows. Everything's done in secret, and the transparency just isn't there. But thanks for letting me speak.
All right, others wish to be heard on this public hearing related to Brownfield?
Brandon Bilski, Second Ward. I appreciate efforts to attract business, small business, new development is great. It's going to raise the property values, but without a comprehensive plan to attack gentrification structurally and fully, every time you say it's misinformation that someone brings up $500K and that's not solving the issue, that's gaslighting, pure and simple, because you know that $14 million, hell, even the $6 million you throw annually, that's nothing in comparison to what you need to comprehensively solve this issue. If you were truly leveraging this from a private-public partnership perspective, you would take the capacity of Grand Rapids, which is hundreds of millions of private profit every year. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. One corporation alone makes millions of dollars. That is an abundance. That means we can solve this issue. We can build a supply-side economic model for housing, which means that there's a lot of building. And what that does is means a lot more opportunity for small businesses, a lot of people paying income taxes. And you are investing in the engine of the economy, which is small business and the people. When everyone can get paid $25, $35 an hour and has dignity and respect, that spurs your economy. More small businesses, not more monopolized, huge corporations. You joked in the Planning Commission about how this real estate industry has done well around here. They've done well. These are millionaires who have made it. Let the rest of us make it too. Everyone can have abundance in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Diversity should be a strength. And if housing is an equity issue, and diversity is a strength, and it costs less to house people and help them be back on their feet than it does to perpetuate with this ordinance policy, this public-private partnership where you completely let all the profit out of the city. You don't collect the tax revenue, and the taxes don't help the people thrive. When your middle class has been destroyed for the past 30 to 40 years, you as leaders must respond at the very least with your rhetoric. And that is economic sense and sensibility that is being ignored for the very few. We're talking the very few. Huge national development should be taxed a lot. That profit margin of millions of dollars where one realtor is making $500K on 2 projects. And if there's misinformation, whose fault is it?
All right. Anyone else who wishes to be heard on this Brownfield development plan? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing, and that will be referred back to our committee of the whole. And that will take us to our last opportunity for public comment tonight. Again, we ask that you come forward, that you share your name, the city that you live in. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak.
How you doing, everybody?
Oh, DeAndre, there's a line.
Oh, shit.
Sorry.
Please don't yell at me next time.
Well, okay, all right.
so I can't hear. Yeah, I have my earphones on.
Oh, okay, all right, DeAndre, no, don't get in. Let Libby speak.
Okay, I'm sorry I yelled at you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm still Libby. I want to first say that I'm really disgusted with most of you. I think a lot of you, yeah, it's funny, it's hilarious. But I want to know, where can I go to get all the tables and chairs on Monroe off the city streets? You know, all the social zones that you've made that interfere with my ability to walk through my city. How do I do that? What is the structure I go to so that the business leaders have to follow the same rules that they want the unhoused to follow? How do I do that? Or is this just, we're going to give to the business people what they want, and we're just going to say, hey, if you don't have a house, you don't matter, right? I think it's really sad. And I do think that this was handled very poorly. I specifically, and I said it last time, I remember Commissioner Moody saying we weren't going to vote on this. This wasn't a thing that we were going to take up. And here we are in July. Boom, boom, boom. Each week, and you got it through. You did what your Lord and Master wanted you to do. You voted to give him some more police, oomph to get people out of his way. Good job. You all should be proud of yourselves. I mean, I appreciate the people that were thoughtful. I appreciated, too, that you were willing to give billboards a little extra time to make sure that you were giving them the thought process, but not people. Billboards. Come on, you guys. Come on. I mean, I won't even go there. I just think it's pretty sad. And, honestly, before I even heard that you guys had already made your votes known, I knew Commissioner O'Connor would vote for this. I knew the Third Ward ones or the West Side ones. The West Side is always where, well, quite honestly, the people that are kind of small-minded come from. And I said earlier, well, it's true. Do you know, let me just give you a little history, because I know you're not from Grand Rapids. At one point, the Meyer people offered the land that is now Meyer Garden to John Ball Zoo, but the neighborhood association over there refused to let the zoo move. Won't let them grow, but they wouldn't let them move either. So I don't usually think of the West Side as the side that really gives a crying crap about what happens to Grand Rapids. And in this, I just want to say, my mom must be watching this, and she told me to stop yelling because you had called me out and said, Libby, no more. But there should be a process for us to be able to address the inequity of you and how you enforce the rules. If you're making a trans person get up here and tell their city, but a white man you're not, there's a problem there. And that is why I had spoken out, because there is no system to make sure that the mayor enforces the rules for everybody. So, yeah. I'm not going to thank you.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Thanks again. Ivan Diaz, County Commissioner for District 20, Universal Healthcare Coordinator for Michigan United and Michigan People's Campaign. There's been a lot of words said here today, but I'm personally a fan of those who have come before us and have fought these types of fights for generations. So I want to read a quote here from Dr. King in his 1964 Nobel Peace Prize address. A second evil which plagues the modern world is that of poverty. Like a monstrous octopus, it projects its nagging, prehensible tentacles in lands and villages all over the world. Almost 2/3 of the peoples of the world go to bed hungry at night. They are undernourished, ill-housed, and shabbily clad. Many of them have no houses or beds to sleep in. Their only beds are the sidewalks of the cities and the dusty roads of the villages. Most of these poverty-stricken children of God have never seen a physician or a dentist. Now, those that know me know that I'm not a religious person, even though I was raised in a Catholic/Christian household. But in my time in the local circles of who's who, I've come to realize that religion is a big part of the lives of many of the people here in West Michigan. And so I'd like to also read a section of Luke chapter 6, verse 12. On one of those days, Jesus, went out to the mountain to pray, and he spent the whole night in prayer to God. And when it became day, he called his disciples to him and chose from among them 12, whom he also named apostles. Verse 17, and he came down with them and stood on a level place, and there was a large crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the coastal region of Tyre and Sidon. Even those troubled with unclean spirits were cured, and all the crowd were seeking to touch him because power was going out of him and healing them all. And he looked up at his disciples and began to say, "Happy are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Happy are you who hunger now, for you will be filled. Happy are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Happy are you whenever men hate you, and when they exclude you and reproach you and denounce your name as wicked for the sake of the Son of Man." Now, I'd like to give a appreciative shout out to Commissioners Perdue, Commissioners Knight, for showing the courage to take the votes that you took today. I know it's not easy. I would hope that some of that same courage was expressed and shown from the commissioners in the first ward, but unfortunately that was not the case. But I am going to leave here tonight with these words, again from Congressman John Lewis, who passed away a couple of years ago. "Do not get lost in the sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is a struggle of a lifetime. Never ever be afraid to make some good noise and get in good trouble and necessary trouble." So with that, I want to remind everybody that there are elections next year, and we can express our consequences there. Thank you.
All right, others wish to be heard?
My name is Diane, and I live here in Grand Rapids. I just had a couple comments I wanted to make. One is, I found that one of the hardest roads to follow is God Himself. The second thing is that we tend as people not to see the police as humans, but they're human beings also. They have families, they have babies, they have jobs that they have to do, and it's one of the hardest when you have so much for you and so much against you. But I do respect what you do, and I thank you because I feel a lot safer. Regardless of the race that I am, they've always been there for me, and that's all I can say. And I do hope that every last one of you can be looked at as human beings, and hopefully that things could get better between you and us and the homeless and people of color. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, this is my first time having this humble opportunity. My name is Matthew Paul Scott. I live in Grand Rapids, and I have lived in Grand Rapids most of my life. Most of my life, and I've heard many people say that the ones that are not hurt the most are the ones that are the unhoused neighbors, and that is true in many respects, but there's still, let's say there's still enslavement going on because you all referenced Martin Luther. He said, and my dad has brought the quote many times, that those who are being forced into murder are the slaves of the parents and whoever's doing the murdering, and until that stops, God cannot bless us, and that's why we at our ministry, and that's why we as a country need to continue to speak up for the unborn. Thank you.
All right. Others wish to be heard?
Thank you, Matthew. Also, thank you, Diane. All right, quick advertisement. Free clothing this Saturday, 229 South Division. It's very high quality. Our people that dispense it have been doing this for about 12 years, of all sizes, all colors, and so on. So if you need clothing, 229 South Division this Saturday, about noon till about 2 p.m. But again, I must say, you're going to be presented with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Again, my name is Daniel Scott, longtime resident of Grand Rapids, and my real identity is I'm a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. For some good news, at 320 East Fulton, just this year, according to the ministry that is out there almost daily, Jordan Sweezer and his ministry, 38 precious babies have been saved from being murdered. 38 precious babies. Praise the Lord. Bad news, terrible news. In that same time slot, 556 have been murdered. That's 8 per day. Mayor Bliss, I just wanted to personally wish you a memorable birthday coming up. August 3rd, I believe. Number 48, if I can say that. We in our ministry have a practice where we remember birthdays by sharing people's meaning of their names. You probably knew this, but Rosalind means beautiful rose, and your last name, Bliss, means heaven. My prayer is that you'll be in heaven someday. I want to close with just reading a song. Man of sorrows, what a name for the Son of God who came, ruined sinners to reclaim. Hallelujah, what a Savior. Bearing shame and scoffing rude, in my place condemned he stood. Sealed my pardon with his blood. Hallelujah, what a Savior. Guilty, vile, and helpless we, spotless Lamb of God was he. Full atonement can it be. Hallelujah, what a Savior. Author, Philip Bliss. I know you won't answer this, but I would be curious to know if the two of you were related. Again, thank you. May you have many more birthdays.
Thank you. Others who wish to be heard?
My name's Carrie. I live in the 2nd Ward. I just want to thank Commissioners Perdue and Knight for their votes tonight. It's nice to see people that vote with their conscience instead of putting profit over people, as we see so many times in this administration here. I also want to point out that I'm the West Michigan Chapter President for the National Organization for Women. And a couple of our core beliefs are that there should be economic equality and social justice. I'm not seeing any actions other than from you two that promote that in this city. And I'm very disgusted with the way that those votes went today, and that you passed these ordinances that will further criminalize our unhoused community. We already have an issue with Grand Rapids Police Department. With 30 civil rights cases, one of which you just paid out today, you just voted on $45,000. We have multiple federal lawsuits. There are federal investigations against GRPD, and there's a cop on trial for murder. And yet, you have just voted to criminalize more people and force them into more interactions with a department that has already been proven to harass, intimidate, brutalize, and murder our BIPOC community. I hope that you can all live with yourselves when another murder occurs, because it will. Just as activists warned you for years before Patrick Lyoya, it's going to happen again. And I want you to take note of my shirt. It says vote, because that's what all of the people will be doing to make sure that those of you who don't actually stand up for the community are never voted into another position again. Justice for Patrick.
All right, others wish to be heard?
I'm still Cindy, and I would like to finish my story about what happened a week ago. And it was extremely scary. And for anyone that missed it, there was unknown folks that broke into my daughter's place. And basically, the community, the neighbors that we had around us that have been looking out for us over a decade, where my property is located in the 2nd Ward, basically, they had waited outside for us because there was no officer that came, because the 911 operator said that no one would come because the witness didn't call personally. The one that had broken English, that we didn't know his legal status, who's probably not going to call 911. So here's my daughter, 25, going into our house. From what we were told, there was a man and a woman inside of our basement. And that was a very just difficult thing. I had no idea if someone had a gun or a knife or, this is my child. My child is entering a property with known people in it that we don't know. And I told her, don't call 911. They ain't going to help you. They're not going to help you. They're not going to help us. They don't care. They don't care. Because that's the 2nd time in 1 year that she's tried to call 911 where the officers don't show up, don't want to come because her last name matches mine. So, that sends a really strong message to my daughter that your city doesn't care about you. Like, why live here? I mean, that's how it feels. I just show up week after week, year after year, month after month, and now the police department just gets more money after I just tell you that I was harassed in line. And a development person in my industry said, what am I going to do if someone breaks in? And oh my God, within 24 hours, there's someone breaking in. Amazing. And yet the GRPD still gets more money. They still get more money. And why is my unit vacant? Because I still couldn't deal with it when Patrick Leoya's family isn't there anymore, okay? I still haven't found new tenants because I'm still traumatized from my life being upset by the GRPD. Just, I don't know. It doesn't matter who's close to me. I don't know, they might be dead, murdered, deported. I don't know, no more of my unhoused neighbor friends can be harassed. And it's really hard to watch. It's hard to see. It's hard to watch Brownfield development dollars get thrown around to everybody but the residents.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, John, 2nd Ward. This is going out to Commissioner Yasasi and Commissioner Knight. I hope that you attend the Creston neighborhood meetings on Huff Park and the condominiums, and I hope that you do not allow anything to be built against that park, and we put a stop at it. And with the first meeting coming up in August, we got to keep that nature preserve nature. We don't pave over a parking lot or pave over Paradise to put up a parking lot. That is one of the last Paradise City areas in the area. We need no new building. Maybe the city can arrange a buyout of the land around it. Now, second of all, this goes to the whole commission. People have the power, or so I've been believed, or I've been told. 188 to 4. Communication saying don't pass it. The amount of people tonight that showed up, I don't know how many people were in support of it. I'm going to say 30 to 40 were don't pass it, to 3 against. And you want us to bring change? And you want the people to bring change? Let's ask some people about bringing change. Let's ask Martin Luther King about bringing change. Let's ask Malcolm X about bringing change. Let me throw some names here. Let's ask Bobby Hutton about bringing change. Let's ask Fred Hampton about bringing change. Let's ask the federal government about bringing crack cocaine into the United States and bringing change. Ask Bobby Seale how that went. These are probably names you don't know. Some people still remember them. You know, we had a lot of change going. We had a party in the 70s that started school lunch programs, all for change. The government killed them all. Killed every one of them, except Tupac Shakur's godmother who's living in Cuba. As Bill Ayers used to say, or William Ayers, the weather is a-changing. It's 2022. Read the Port Huron statement that Tom Hayden wrote in 1965. Things should have been done years ago. We're still waiting 60 years, 55 years to bring that change. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Brandon Bilski, Second Ward. We live on stolen land and we are all immigrants, and this is the land of the three fires, the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi. And in this climate, we have an entire side of the political spectrum saying, make America great again. And I understand the misunderstanding. It's why people don't see that as a fundamentally racist term. It is racist because the greatness of a constitution where only rich white men held land and there was a 3/5 compromise that made certain people, and we know who, 3/5 of a person, so they would help for tax benefit purposes in the South and give them power that they would need to stop what was a perpetual call for justice. Every moment that slavery was going on, there were people who said, hey, people are people and rights are rights. And there is, on the docket in Lansing, a statement of that right to housing. This is directly tied to the lineage of reparations in this country. This is directly tied to that very notion that give me your tired, give me your poor. The Statue of Liberty is a symbol of that promise. A promise that you helped the city see today exactly where you stand on just looking at this issue of homelessness in a space of grand abundance. You have said that we will get them out of our sight. We will move them out of our way so business can go on as usual. And you have given this electoral stage a beautiful platform on which to have the people from both sides of the aisle acknowledge the dehumanization of only going for profit. I hope that you will change over the course of this year, that you will grow and see the error of your ways. Because there is a new power, a people power that is new to this space, but it is as old as time and as old as humanity itself. And I have faith in that power, that Grand Rapids is rising, and we will not accept this. We will not accept this. Thank you for those who voted today for people over the vast interests of profit. And for the rest of you, I know you can do more.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Mark from Grand Rapids. You done made your choice. You got to lie with it. Say what you want. But there's a difference between what you say and what they're going to do. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Now you're gonna have people who are gonna be who have their heads on a swivel, knowing something that's not knowing what they're gonna do when the time it comes, if they get caught doing anything according to these ordinances you just passed. But it's okay. Because understand, you have a payroll to meet. And they can't, and if they can't do they don't do their jobs, they're not gonna make no money. And there's gonna be constant, relentless pressure on every one of y'all. It's like Nolan Richardson, 40 Minutes of Hell. Baseline to baseline, constant, relentless pressure. And they not go rest until you change your minds, because it will happen. Remove remove J. Edgar Hoover's name from the FBI building. Remove George Wallace's name from Mobile, Alabama. Justice for Patrick Leoya. Recall Ron DeSantis. And free Crossley Green. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, Mark. DeAndre, you want to go ahead?
All right, cool.
Be our last comment, and then I'll close this public hearing.
How you doing, everybody? It's been a little while since I gave public comment. I've been quite busy doing stuff around the community. I want to show y'all something. I won an International Visionaries Award, and I had to fly to Las Vegas and get this beautiful award. They made this award in Dubai. And the only other place that they do these awards is Dubai. And I got this award for all of my hard work and my vision and my passion. And I would say my passion for equity and economic development and prosperity for all people, even the people that don't like me and the people that hate D. Jones and speak when I give public comment or just speak here. I still wish those people still have a good quality of life, because good human beings, no matter how you try to judge people or try to hate on people, people's character don't change. When you're authentic, when you're genuine, when you truly love people. I really wish that those people really have a prosperous life, because I know where I'm going to go. I'm an international visionary. That can't be denied. I flew to Las Vegas. I got to chill with a bunch of cool, innovative people. I got to chill with people from the NBA. I got to chill with Paul George, NBA All-Star, PG. I got to chill with Paul George from my work that I did here. I'm in the second worst city for economic development. Nobody can never tell me I can't do anything, because I proved that. I grew up on SSI. I grew up in poverty. I grew up on food pantries. If you would have told me, D. Jones, you would grow up and you would win an International Visionaries Award and a Global Business Award too. No, I can't go on a 5-day cruise with the royal families because they want $10,000, but I'll take that right now, because I know I'll get there one day. I know I'll get there. I'll be a billionaire, and I'll create those 3D homes, and I'll get people out of poverty, and I'll create equitable jobs. And I'll be sure that have anybody they can hold me to that. I know I'll still be that same person when I look 20 years down the line and I'm an old man and I got gray hair. I know I'll still be that same D. Jones that I am today. I know I'll still be that same core of the person I am. I never changed who I was. I was never fake. I never pretended to be something I wasn't. I was always genuinely, authentically D. Jones. I'm the same D. Jones that everybody that doesn't like me, I'm still him. I've still accomplished a lot, even when y'all got locked up and y'all was hating on me. Look at the things I've accomplished. What have y'all accomplished? Please watch who you bash, because it's going to make you look really bad. I'm an international visionary, and people from all over the world know who I am from my work that I've done here in the second worst city for economic development. It's so hard to do, and I know how hard I had to work. And I know how harder I'm still going to work. I want to thank the Grand Rapids Police Department for sponsoring the Urban Youth Summer Basketball League. They sponsored the team. I'm not going to give you guys and put you guys on the pedestal, but I appreciate you guys sponsoring the Southside Nets because we got 12 to 15 kids that have an opportunity to be able to play basketball. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, DeAndre, and congratulations on your award. All right, I'm going to turn to my colleagues. Commissioner Robbins, you're still on the phone. I'll turn to you first. Are you still on there?
Are you still on there?
Did you want to make any comments, Commissioner Robbins?
Hey, good evening. Sorry about that. Nope, I'm all set. Thank you, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Connor, I'll go this way.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I want to start, a lot of people got up and just expressed their support for Commissioners Knight and Commissioners Perdue, and I'm proud of you guys too. I've been here for 7 months serving with you. Got to know both of you personally. I've really enjoyed serving with you, and I've been in your shoes a bunch of times. Oftentimes, it's the lonely island of John O'Connor. It's not just I don't have a wing person to vote no with me. So I've been in your shoes, and it's not fun sometimes. And but you have morals and you have reasons you make these decisions. And I'm proud of you for sticking to your guns and vote no. It's not fun to do that sometimes. Most of the time, I'm also proud of the other 5 colleagues up here who stuck to their guns and voted yes on these ordinances to move them forward because we saw the work that got done. We see the continued efforts we're making towards housing, towards how we in our limited role in local government can impact some of these concerns and outcomes, given the resources that we have available to us and the mandates placed upon us by multiple tiers of government and bureaucracy. And so I'm proud of the 5 people that stood up here and said, we got enough information, we're proud of the other work we're doing. And, I know that every person I've had the opportunity to serve with currently and in the past, I don't agree with them all. I've always loved the fact that in any of the roles I've had the privilege of serving in, they've been nonpartisan roles. I get to be me all the time. I get to vote my conscience. I get to, there's no party overseeing me, telling me what to do or following some party line. We get to figure out what the work is that's good and find willing partners to come along with you to sometimes vote yes and sometimes vote no. And I know that, there are people who are upset tonight about the things that we did, but I know that this is an important piece of legislation that goes to creating expectations so that all public spaces are public spaces for everybody. And that's really what I believe. There are places in Grand Rapids that I feel that are no longer public spaces where myself or my family or people that I know I would want to go because I don't feel like that they're no longer public. And the sidewalk is everybody's sidewalk, just like the street is everybody's street. It's designed for everybody, and the parks are the same thing. We're going to get back to work. In 2 weeks, we're going to come back. I'm so proud of the work we did with the Planning Commission 2 weeks ago to talk about the underlying housing concerns that we actually have the ability to control. Would I like to snap my fingers tomorrow and build 34,000 housing units in the city of Grand Rapids? Absolutely. I think every person sitting at this dais understands the urgency and the concern that is in front of us. But we don't control, if I take 34,000 housing units and I multiply that by how much it costs to build a housing unit, we don't have that much money in our budget. We don't have that much money in our budget in the next 100 years to do that. So we can't do it alone. We need partners. But the things that we do control are, today we got a legislative update to talk about very important changes that got made to Brownfield TIF at the state level to allow us to use those tools to build housing in Grand Rapids, single-family housing in Grand Rapids. We've got changes made at the local level around zoning that are on the table that are going to let us hopefully put beds in heads, get more people with a roof over their head, because we do believe in housing first.
Heads and beds.
Heads and beds, yeah, sorry. And so, politics, you got to have a short memory sometimes. You got to have a long memory and a short memory, but in this circumstance, it's going to be short. It's a short memory. We voted no. We disagreed. Commissioner Yasasi's always pushing us to make sure that there's feedback, that, that whatever happens, we're not, this isn't happening in a vacuum, that 6 months from now we're not, we forget what we did, that there's going to be a feedback cycle, a feedback loop on this, and we're going to figure out, is this having the intended consequence or not? But in 2 weeks, we're going to get back to work and try to continue to solve problems. And I'm proud to serve with every one of you to solve problems. And I'm proud of the administrative staff who supports us, and we support them in these efforts together. This is truly collaborative, and I appreciate all of your leadership and all, each and every one of you, even though we don't always agree.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Yasasi?
Thank you, Mayor. Gosh, I don't need to say anything after that. But I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that is what people don't get to see is some of the conversations that we're either having in smaller groups or one-on-one with the staff. Admittedly, this was a lot from getting sort of an initial letter at the end of last year with different colleagues who I've also had the chance to talk to because I think they're, watching this as well. They were part of this, to new colleagues. And I think that discourse and conflict and difference is part of doing this. And I appreciate you all too, I would say, especially the staff as well. I just wanted to highlight something different because we've been here, some of us, for 14 hours, 15 hours. I wanted to highlight just the appreciation for our water department today. Honestly, I don't remember all the awards that were given out, but there was also a recognition of 150 years, our sesquicentennial, I can't say that word, of our water system. And I think that providing water and being able to do things like going to a monthly option from a technology standpoint, and just the communication that we're sharing with individuals about, I think the belief in our water system, and to know that we want to continue to make these investments and upgrades, whether it's in our water service line pieces. And I just want to say thank you to that department. It was a lot of individuals here today, and sometimes you get to see the people in the executive office or in Office of Equity Inclusion, some that community development, but you might not see those employees. So just thank you to them, and congratulations on that achievement. Thanks.
Commissioner Perdue?
Yes, good evening. So I obviously am disappointed how those last important votes went, but here we are. And I do just want to iterate that we got a commitment earlier today during the Committee of the Whole that there will be a 6-month update on how this goes. So that is one kind of pathway of public accountability and public feedback from us to you. Also, though this is going to be one of many contentious votes and many disagreements, that I still kind of retain respect and appreciation for you colleagues, and encourage the public not to villainize any of the folks up here for votes and for our votes, even when we disagree. And to encourage you to keep your eye on the prize and to think about permanent issues. We don't have permanent friends. We don't have permanent enemies. We have permanent issues. And so on this vote, while we might not have found agreement, there will be other ones that we can, related to housing, relating to our homeless population, so on and so forth. So just want to encourage folks to keep that in mind as we move forward, because we kind of need this body to continue working together, to be collaborative, and to hear your voice in future decisions, future very important decisions. I also hope that we can learn from this process. I talked about the speed. I talked about the lack of inclusiveness and transparency in some ways that I took issue with, and I'm hoping that from a process standpoint we can learn and improve so that we can increase trust amongst us, amongst myself, but certainly and most importantly, increase trust from the public, from you all. And Commissioner Usasi, I always appreciate you for bringing it back and making other. We did vote on a lot of other items today. The 150th anniversary was so cool to celebrate and to hear the history, and I got the opportunity to tour some of our water facilities, and seeing the wooden pipes from 100 years ago. It's remarkable to see that growth and the innovation. But just want to, we do vote on a lot of really important issues every single time that we meet, and we did invest in a communications person in this recent budget, and I'm hoping to just ensure that you all get an update on all of the important investments we're making on the issues that are important to us. So this was a long day, disappointing ending, but again, no short memories. We will kind of move on, look for the next fight, look for the next point of agreement to keep things moving forward, get the work done for you all. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Moody?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's been a very tedious thought pattern of the day for me, dealing with the ordinances, listening to the people talk, and listen to a number of people come up and quote Dr. King, Eldridge Cleaver, and so many people that I've had the opportunity to understand and read about. I don't think that they truly understand the lividity of what they were saying, because those gentlemen and those individuals in their private time dealt with racism on a level much more higher than the level which you've talked about tonight or dealt with. They dealt with homelessness. They fed their communities. They dealt with issues that centered around laws and misunderstandings. And they also dealt with the problems in which we've had with police relationships. I would hope that no officer would kill anyone. I would want it never to happen again, and hope that we don't speak of it that it should happen. We've had 11 murders in this city already. I don't hear anybody talking about how to curb that, except for Cure Violence, Urban League, and those individuals who are in the community out there trying to stop that violence from occurring. Sometimes I think you have a misunderstanding of what it really is and what it means to be black. You think you know, but you really don't. Some of you truly think that we're in the pockets of the wealthy. We're not. Nobody gave me any money for my campaign. I ran on this board because I wanted to do something that I felt was just. It seemed like from the moment we got on this board, everything that we've been hit with has been from the community and things of what we're not doing. Because we have difference of opinion, you choose to reward those who vote your way and not your way. That's fine. I'm not opposed to it. But I'm not afraid of you either. And I've opened my doors many times, but you choose not to come and talk, and that's okay too. The backlash, it will come, but I will stand up to it, because I'm not running from anyone. As long as I'm a city commissioner, I'm going to do my job for the city, for my third ward, to the best of my ability. But you don't know what it's like to be in my skin. You talk about being poor, you talk about not having nothing. Everything that everybody said tonight, I've experienced it as a kid from homelessness, but you don't want to hear that because you think that we have arrived or that we have a different mindset. Half of you don't even know what it's like to have no food on the table. Some of you got privileges so well that you choose this opportunity to take your privilege to fight for a cause that you feel is important, but you really don't understand the real deep cause you're fighting for. This was a difficult ordinance tonight. I thought about it and pondered it, went over it and read it a number of different times. If we do nothing to improve our city overall, you'd be mad at that. We've listened to everything that you've said. Every email that you've sent us, whether it was positive or negative. We allowed the city manager to put a team together with his team, along with the city attorney, to look at these ordinances, to go over them, to make sure we were not doing anything unjust to the people who are homeless. And there's a bigger picture here. And some of us are only looking at homeless people being abused and homeless people being arrested. It's bigger than this. It's bigger than that. How do we get people into housing? How do we get people into mental institutions where they need to be on medication? We're not even talking about that issue. Yes, there's a racial component that exists here in Grand Rapids, and yes, some of y'all are racist. And some of us have our own biases as well. But how do we fix it? We fix it together. We don't fix it by putting each other down. I came up on the hard side of Grand Rapids. So don't talk to me about not knowing what it's like to be poor and homeless. You say you don't want to hear my story of how we overcame? Okay, fine. I don't want to hear yours either, if you can't hear mine. So I voted on this because I believe it's the right thing to do. Whether it fits your benefit or not, I believe it was just to have it done. Now, if it doesn't work out as a city commission, we have the power to overrule it and take it back and redo it and look at it again. My hope is that it will work, and my hope is that the city will comply with it as well. But what my other desire is, you want this seat? Run for it.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Knight?
First, want to say that I appreciate each and every one of you up here. When we sit in the back, people think we've made decisions, but I bet you didn't guess it was going that way. We don't make the decision beforehand. And I appreciate the discourse. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the thoughts. I appreciate the work. Because a lot of times we think things are one way when we're standing on the outside looking in. But then when you get in, then you see something different. And I would dare challenge us, and that's all of us, and I always say us as a community, when we begin to look at situations and circumstances, that we come with a different lens. Because a lot of times we look through a specific lens to see things, and that's not always how things are when you get into it. I appreciate the opportunity to say yes and say no, because somebody's not going to clap for me when I say yes on something they don't like. I particularly don't need it. I'm here, as I do believe that the rest of my colleagues are here, to do what we feel is right. And when each of us took countless hours and days and sleepless nights out campaigning for what we felt was the right thing, and people stood up for that, I don't think that was taken lightly when those efforts were put forth. And so I do respect the work that everybody puts into the decisions and the thoughts and the things that have to happen in this community, because it's big. It's bigger than us. It's not about us, right? It's about the larger picture. And that's this community. And I think even when we first started with Commissioner Perdue, one of the things I think we both stated was that we're not always going to agree on the same things because we have different lived experiences. We come from different spaces, different neighborhoods, different schools, right? And so the way that we approach things are all from that conditioning that we've had from our past. But I dare say if we were to lay down some of that when we come and listen, and I want to say that, I think I've said it over the last couple of meetings, when we come to listen, because I think we come a lot of times in here to listen and hear what we want to hear as opposed to what's actually being said. And I'm welcome to have a conversation about that at any time, because I listen to a lot of the conversations across that podium over there, and a lot of them aren't really what people are saying, it's what they're not saying. And if we take time to listen to not only who's here, but who's out there, I think we'll begin to hear some things that we really haven't taken time to listen to. So I appreciate the work that you all do. I appreciate your support. I'm here with you. I got your back, but yours as well. All right? So let's continue to work towards what's best for our community at large. Not a pocket, not a corner, not a specific area, but our city. Because there's a lot going on, and there's a lot that we have to do. And we need the support of one another to do that. We don't come in here lightly. I don't wake up in the morning, and believe me, my days are short. Or should I say my nights? Yeah, that way. She knows. They're short. Because I'm always thinking about our community, and I believe that everyone here feels the same way. So I'm not going to beleaguer this point because it's late, but I thank you once again for your time and your work, every commissioner, every leader up on this dais, as well as every community leader and every person that puts their time and energy into what needs to happen in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Clerk?
Just real briefly, I have a group meeting coming in tomorrow from the Center for Civic Design. They're underneath the elections group and various other groups, and so they do a lot of stuff working around the country with what we do for design work for election materials and the like. So they're going to be reviewing our materials, our election campaigns over the last couple election cycles. Take a look at our website and just look at some of the stuff that we do engagement for elections to get us really prepared for the 2024 cycle. So it's a great opportunity to have experts in the fields of civic design and to take a look at some of our stuff tomorrow. So,
Thank you. City Attorney?
Thank you.
City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioners, for your work today. I want to express my appreciation for, again, the staff for their careful preparation for this meeting, for the nearly 400 pages of items, documents in the packet, for even the staff who set up the chairs for this room, to those who are behind the camera, telecasting the meeting, and just really overall the amount of work that goes in every week to make this happen, to make it easy for us just to push a button, turn a mic on, and make a motion and a vote yes or no. And then the work that happens after this meeting to actually go back and implement it, as you've heard earlier today around the implementation plan. And I want to highlight again the briefing today on the legislative and state budget updates. A lot of work went into preparing for that conversation that showed the over $90 million of investments that's coming into this community, $41 million directly into city facilities, and the plans were laid out that will improve the public health and safety. With the creation of our building of 2 additional fire stations training center, as well as improve the quality of life with adding more park amenities and benefits, particularly in the 3rd Ward. So I want to thank the staff for that work, as well as the discussion around our legislative priorities. And I agree with all of the comments that were shared here tonight, that our work is continue to look forward and to try to improve our community. That's why each of you selected or determined or answered the call to public office, and it's one that is not always going to be popular, and it's often going to be disagreement, but we serve in a democracy, and tonight we heard the majority of this body, and that is our role as staff. We don't vote, but we exercise the policy will of the majority of the commission, and tonight we heard what the majority of this body prefers, and we will move so in executing it in a way that will be equitable. Well, that's what I've heard this evening. We didn't use the word, but we want to make sure that what we do does not cause any harm to our community, and that will be our job as staff to make sure that it is one that helps and not hurts our community members.
Thanks, City Manager. And I'll just add for a few final thoughts since it's late. But first off, I really want to thank each of you for your service. I have the real privilege to serve alongside you, but also to see how much time and energy and heart you put into serving this community. And I would never expect all of us to agree, quite frankly, on any issue. But I always expect us to respect one another, and that is what I appreciate about all of you. We agree, we disagree, we debate, we have hard conversations, and at the end of the day, we cast a vote for what we believe is in the best interest of our community. And I will never question that. These are complex issues, far more complex, I think, than some of us appreciate, and there are no easy solutions. We look at other communities, we look at best practices. I talk to my colleagues in other cities, I talk to mayors about these issues nonstop. No city is getting it right, quite frankly, on any of the issues that we're trying to tackle. And, you know, I voted in support of these ordinances tonight because I know the work that has gone into all of the other important efforts that we have put into this issue around housing and responding more effectively to homelessness. If we were not actively engaged in trying to create a better system, trying to improve outcomes, trying to improve coordinated entry and outreach, and get, you know, county services more at the table and improve mental health services and get more funding from the state, I would never have supported these ordinances tonight. But I know that we're doing all of that work. It's not easy. All of us know it's not easy. But if we weren't doing that work, coupled with some of the hard decisions tonight about modifying our current ordinances so that we can address legitimate concerns that have been brought to our table, I wouldn't have supported them. But I did support these ordinances because we have been working so hard on these issues with our partners in this community. And I also want to thank the staff. The staff have put a lot of time and energy into getting us to where we are today. And it's been tough, and you've had to take a lot of feedback from all of us around this table, and then some, and try to draft something that we thought was narrowly focused to address some of the current concerns. And I know it wasn't easy. So thank you for your work. And like most other things that we do around this table, we will revisit the impact. And if modifications need to be made, we'll be willing to do that. So with that, I want to thank you all again for your service. A lot of good work was done today, whether it was around cure violence and getting the update at public safety, or some of the funding allocations, or some of the things we voted on in our subcommittees today. I just want to thank all of you. So with that, we're adjourned.